school board special board meeting for August 11th started. Call it to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have starting the night off. I know the agenda has for open forum, but we have about 70 people that want to speak. Prior to that, I'm going to have Terry and Joe update us on the roadmap for return to school. So it might obviously answer some of the questions that are out there, and it might provoke some more. So I think it would be wise to we'll do that first, and then we'll go into the open forum. So we start with Mr. McDonald.
Mr. President, could we do a roll call, please?
Oh, we sure can. Mrs. Burkmeyer, can you do a roll call?
Yes, I can. Mr. Middlestat?
He's on his way. He's about 5 minutes away.
Yep.
Mr. Drew? Mr. Drew?
Here.
Ms. Akavari Henderson?
Here.
Ms. DeWitt?
Is that it? Is that what we're having?
Is Ms. DeWitt here?
He's not, I haven't seen her, no.
Not yet. Nope.
Mr. Green?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Burkmeyer here. Mr. Moses?
Here.
All right, thank you. Now we'll go to the roadmap for return to school.
All right, good evening, board. As you know, at last week's meeting, we addressed the many facets of the return to school roadmap. The roadmap was released by the governor's office on June 30th and was then worked on by the county superintendents with input and collaboration from the county's executive office and the Macomb County Health Department. Anchor Bay, as all districts in the county, took the template and added specific information pertaining to our district and input from teachers, support staff, and administrators. To be clear, the roadmap determines specific directives and guidance for health and safety, instruction, and social emotional support areas. All items required by state law will be followed for by in-person and remote instruction. Many of the questions and concerns were related to PPE, social distancing, and health screening. Please know the state does not require student temperatures to be taken. However, they strongly encourage families to do so each day prior to attending school. At the last meeting, the board determined it wanted to pursue a few scenarios in terms of how to start the school year for 2020 and what to offer Anchor-based students. We want to remind everyone that this is not an easy, clear-cut decision for anyone. Options that work best for one family may not necessarily work best for another. Respect and understanding is the best way to reach positive solutions. With that being said, we want to address the options the board asked for us to present, and we are also asking to share we're going to share some of the challenges and considerations with each of the options. As you might guess, what's best educationally for students may not be the easiest in terms of the safety guidance required by the roadmap. There are positives and negatives to each option considered. I'm going to share with you to start, we're going to talk about the 4 different options. So if we can go to the next screen. And option 1 is 100% remote start. Option 2 is the Anchor Bay Virtual Academy and K-12 in person. Option 3 is K-2 in person and 3rd through 12th grade 100% remote. Option 4 is a K-12 hybrid face-to-face model. And then we also have the Anchor Bay Virtual Academy. So going into option 1, this is the 100% remote start to school year. And this is with all K-12 students. This is remote instruction with our Anchor Bay teachers teaching these courses. This is our current class schedules. They're going to be done through our Schoology platform online. The board would have to determine, you know, are we going to start this right away, and then is it going to be 1 month or for the first semester, or until the state is in phase 5? So that would be a determination on the board's end. And phase 5 would take us to all students returning face-to-face. So this is option 1, talking about remote start for the school year. Next slide, please. Just want to talk about one of the options that we have for all students is the virtual academy. So the Anchor Bay Virtual Academy, this is an offer for students all year round. This is their option to do, and we're going to be opening that up for the registration. But this is a consistent, regardless of which phase we're in, and this is an option for students to do at home virtually. So I want to make sure that we understand that the option 1 is for all students from Anchor Bay to go remote, but we also have that virtual academy that is an option for students if they want to continue virtually through the whole school year. And also while we're on this screen, we'll want to make sure that we're understanding that the Anchor Bay curriculum will be followed with the virtual academy and the 100% remote start, if that were to be in the option chosen. Online instruction will be given along with videos, and examples of those schedules will be followed in the next couple screens. We're going to make sure that we're supporting all students with IEPs and 504s with contingency plans at the beginning of the school year. Students will also have the option to petition to return to traditional learning if that's a choice that they make while they're starting out virtually, but they can go back to traditional learning. That's an option. So the next slide is the challenges and considerations. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to do we're going to show a demonstration of Schoology, the online platform that we're using. Sorry about that. I have it written down here and I skimmed right by it, but we're going to have a demonstration so everyone can see what a sample class looks like. And we have an option for elementary and a secondary option also.
Jerry, are you wanting me to take over from here?
Yes, please, Anita, thanks.
Okay. So what you're looking at is Schoology. I'm actually having you look at my Schoology right now. First of all, I just want to say that Schoology will be the learning management platform for all K-12 students. This platform is linked to PowerSchool and becomes a one-stop shop for both parents and teachers. We have been working hard for the past 7 weeks to ensure we are in the best position to offer both remote and in-person instruction. All of our teachers, whether teaching remote or in person, will set up their classroom lessons and assignments in Schoology. Again, this best positions us to be flexible and fluid should things change from one delivery model to the next. I want to thank the virtual learning subcommittee that included teachers and administrators who helped to design the structure that will be used at each level in each course. We believe a consistent structure will be best for both students and parents to be able to access and fully utilize. This is also a good time to mention that access will be provided to parents and virtual trainings and videos have already been created. We will host trainings for parents and students before the school year begins, and we have already placed some basic training videos on our website for access now. I'm going to show you a few examples so you can just get a sneak peek at what it would look like for students. So this is my landing page. If I were an elementary student, I would probably just have my one classroom and possibly my specials teachers as well. If I was a secondary student, I would see each of my teachers. So each of these boxes would represent a different course. Right now, I'm going to show you an example of a 3rd grade. And when I get inside the 3rd grade, the landing page that you see is, it happens to be Mrs. Gilbert. We thank her for letting us use her stuff. She's giving us kind of an update on what the week is going to look like, and there'd be any notices or messages that the teacher would want to put there. When you go to the materials section, every elementary would be set up the same way with the individual folders by the core subjects that they're learning. And there's always a resource folder. There's always support videos and links on Schoology, and then how to contact your teacher. So these three are going to be consistent at every, for every student. So just taking a quick peek, if you went into language arts, and then we go into the reading folder, and this just happens the week of September 28th. What you would see on here are lessons. Some would be recorded. Sometimes it might be the link directly to a conference or a Zoom meeting in which they would be doing face-to-face. There could be quizzes and assignments. Students would see them. They have the ability to see what is still green. You know, they would change colors when they complete it. And then all the different lessons could be on here. So I'm just going to kind of pick on Tuesday's lesson. And the teacher has what the learning goal would be, what the success criteria would be, some activities in your reading journal. In this particular case, the teacher read a book to the students. So if I played this video, you would hear the teacher reading this book. So that gives you kind of just a sneak peek. Also for the elementaries, I already showed you the update page. The grade book page, of course, right now I'm showing you mine, so you're seeing the teacher's name, the principals, and a student. If a student or parent were in there, they would only see their own name. And it would show them how they're progressing, what the points were, how they were graded. You can sort it by due date so they could see what would happen. So that's kind of a sneak peek of some of the opportunities for third grade. I want to show you in math. If we went down, again, I'm going to show just maybe possibly what a lesson would look like. So this is an example where a teacher is providing a lesson and doing it in video format. I'm going to hit play. Terry, if for some reason the sound changed because we have so many people, just give me a quick shout.
Sure.
Hello everyone. Today our learning goal is to learn how to play frog jump multiplication. This learning is important because it helps you improve your fluency when you solve multiplication problems. Remember,
I'll skip ahead.
one of my jumps has to be 6, so I have to jump all the way from 0 all the way to 6. That's my first jump. Now,
So again, that's just one example, and that was a third grade. So again, if I go back to my courses, I just want to take everybody through a quick peek of what secondary would look like. So again, secondary, as a student entered, they would have all of their courses. In this particular case, I'm going to click on a sample of this course was a sample from Honors Geometry. And again, in the materials, they would see what their daily agenda would have in it. And then this is an example, again, of an activity they would have to do. This PDF would be directions. I'm going to show another quick video of a teacher giving a lesson. I promised her I would start it a little bit later, so her dog wasn't barking.
We need the H and the K, which is really the X coordinate of your center and the Y coordinate of your center. And then we're going to need the radius. So in order to do that, let's go ahead and just look at the graph. And I'm going to zoom in on this guy so that you can recognize and be careful. Notice that this one says that this is a unit of 1. So each box.
I know everyone is really interested in learning more of the equations, but I was just giving a quick look. Again, they also have how to contact your teacher, Schoology support videos and links. Those are, again, resources. Depending, you know, the high school teachers would be setting up upcoming events so you could follow all the way through, see what the week ahead looked like, when your activities would be scheduled. And then they have discussion boards. These we found very helpful in the springtime. This is where students posed questions. Teachers monitored it, but the beautiful part that happened there is the collaborative learning between peers, where peers could answer their own question for their friends in the classroom. So I can take any questions on this, or Terry and Joe, is there anything else you want me to show at this point in time within Schoology?
Nope, I think that's a good overview.
Yeah, I think you covered it, and I think it, again, just thank the committee to help put this together and make the template common for all the classes, so that it's not you don't have to learn each teacher's style. It's going to have a common format and template.
All right, so I'll go back to the PowerPoint.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that everyone understands that the health and safety is always a priority for our students. And we want to keep them safe as far as the students and the staff. And so by going back to the 100% remote school option, that also limits the exposure to COVID-19. And we're always reevaluating the status for the virus, and looking at, what do we need to do to adjust to those things, and what programs and modes would we have to consider. It also reduces interaction between the teacher and the student. And we had the surveys that went out to families, and primarily families, the concern would be that they want in-person school. So that would be the contrary to the 100% remote. Live video would be best educationally, but however, that poses some concerns with the teacher unions. And we're talking of that all students would need access to computers and the internet. We know that with 100% remote, that this limits the home supports as far as, the parents feeling comfortable with doing online work with students and, giving that support that they would need. And then also we would have to consider childcare for families, looking at SAC and preschool programs. The next slide we're going to talk about is a sample schedule that we have we're going to have one for elementary, middle school, and secondary. And the samples this one's the elementary sample schedule. And remember that this is just a sample idea. It's not set in stone, but we did look at an early building schedule starting at 8:30 and was developed with the remote learning committee. And we looked at other districts too, just to compare. And so this was set up in the fact that, hey, we're starting with reading and going through the whole day, putting in breaks. Then there's math instruction. Then there's social emotional. Lunch time is considered. And of course, we're looking at language arts and integrated science and social studies, another break put in there, and then specials would be considered at the end of the day. Again, this is what it would look like for remote learning. Just to have a structure, it's important to have, that consistency for students throughout the day. So we want to make sure that we're allowing that, and to have synchronous and asynchronous instruction to allow the flexibility for the students at home so they can watch lessons that they might have missed previously.
All right, I'm going to go on and talk a little bit about the secondary. Again, this was in a previous presentation. Again, it's just our current middle school schedule. And like Terry really explained, to have the accountability, to have students with structure. We know that in the spring, those were two of the downfalls to the remote learning option, so that as we move into the fall, we know, hearing from parents and from staff, that there has to be a better structure and, for accountability purposes. So like Terry said, having kids on this type of structure, and it also, we'll always have the flexibility to have any video that was ever, if it's ever going to be presented live or something during the hour, those pieces can be stored in Schoology so that students could watch them again. They can watch them as many times as they want, or it may be that they have to watch it at a different time. So it will allow that flexibility. The next slide is just the high school schedule. And it, again, is just kind of, we would recommend that kids do the work during the normal work time. And if something is going to be done live, it's going to be done during the school day. But knowing that also those things that are created will be stored, and students will be able to review them any time they want, just like if they were going to do homework in the evening, they would be able to access any of the content through Schoology. Yeah, it's available 24/7 once it's completed. So that's what we have for just keeping in mind, these types of things would be explained to the parents where, setting that structure, making sure that kids are up and at them and doing their schoolwork. Because the important thing with the remote learning and the virtual academy is, for accounting purposes, the amount of work has to mirror the same amount of work that is given in a normal school day. So we will take the exact assignments, the exact teacher input, if you will, which is either the video or the lecture or any readings. All of it is the same, and it should take the same amount of time. So maybe in the spring, you might have had kids, remember, we were just, especially during the remote period when it was brand new, kids were just kind of treading water. This is school, like this same amount of time. So to think that, students could just log in and do a couple hours worth of work and be done. We all know some students finish their work quicker than others, but the exact amount of work would be given to the in-school kids as it would be in the remote learning setting. So I was going to talk to you a little bit about option 2. Option 2 is pretty much the option that one of the options that we talked about last week, and it is the virtual learning and K-12 in person. The remaining kids would all come in at the same time. Whoever did not choose the virtual learning. Some highlights to this is, although we would ask for registration to get this disaggregated and started, we'd ask that people would remain in for the semester or the quarter. But I just want to make it clear that that is not a mandate. It's not something set in stone. Part of having a virtual learning environment, it has to be in the best interest of the student. So we would always take the best interest of a student in mind and would be able to move a student in and out. And also, not only academically, but health and safety wise, of course, if students needed to go to a different setting, it would be allowed. It would be with a discussion. What we're trying to say here is we need a starting point, and we don't want kids just kind of going back and forth, week after week. We want it to, we would discuss it as like an EDP group, an educational planning group, and make sure that we're putting kids in the best situation possible. And we just want to make sure that families that choose that in person are aware that all the required safety elements that we talked about in the previous presentation and mandated by the roadmap, those will be in place. So this is the option where you have your choice, either or, and it's all kids all remaining kids in person at once. So we have, can you give me the next slide, please? We know part of this option, right? Some of the challenges and considerations is it gives that option for the in-person to have the student-teacher contact and classroom support, so that if you feel like remote learning or virtual learning is not in the best interest of your student, you come in and have the teacher support. We also know that when you bring in the remaining kids, if we went by our last survey and if it's 15-20%, that means you still have an 80% in the school. If we have positive COVID cases, then we would be quarantining according to the Michigan or the Macomb County Health Department. And we know that depending on seating charts and what level and the amount of exposure, it could be large numbers of people that would have to quarantine depending on, again, if it's a secondary student and they have 6 different classes and a lunchroom and the bus they ride, et cetera, and whatever the guideline would be, the protocol would be followed, and it could mean multiple quarantined students and staff. So that we know is a reality in today's educational setting. Next slide. Okay, Terry's going to talk to you a little bit about the option 3. Go ahead, Terry.
All right, option 3 is a recommendation from the board they talked about last week. So we threw it in here and we considered everything, looking at bringing in kindergarten through 2nd grade students in person, and then offering 3rd through 12th grade students 100% remote. And this plan we would look at for the K2 students being in person, because it would allow us to have the time for students that are that young. They have a hard time sitting in front of a computer, in front of a screen. So we thought that, out of all the students, they would probably benefit more from the hands-on, learning and the manipulatives and having that interaction with the teacher face-to-face. So this is one of the considerations for option 3. And of course, we're going to look at social distancing as much as feasible as possible, wearing masks in all the common areas, coming in and out of the building. Washing hands will be crucial. And then also having a cleaning schedule using disinfectants in the classroom, as we talked about last week in the roadmap. So those are the considerations for option 3. If we can go to the next slide and talk about some of the challenges and considerations. One of the bullets is talking about, it's not necessarily a challenge, but just talking about how if you have a student that is in 1st grade that would be going in person, and then you have a student that's in 7th grade, they're going to be remote. So that might be a scheduling issue with some of the families, just thinking that through. And then you could look at it on the flip side, that might be a good plan for scheduling, because the student at home might do better with being alone and working on the work while not having their sibling around, and their sibling would be in person. So just a consideration that family schedules might throw a wrench in it, or it might be a good thing. Talking about buses, we want to make sure that we're reiterating that sanitizing hands as the students enter the bus is going to be a requirement, and then wearing masks on the bus, and then also sanitizing the buses after each run. That's also going to be a requirement too. Students will not be able to social distance 6 feet apart on the buses, however. If there are positive COVID-19 cases, that would affect the classrooms for K2, and we would have to make sure that we're referring to the Macomb County Health Department for specific guidance in that scenario. Each scenario would be different, so we need to get recommendations on their end We're ready and planned for isolation areas in the offices. And we have the plans that we talked about last week with the roadmap, but we would be referring to the health department for specific guidance. That is option 3, and then Joe's going to talk about option 4.
Okay, the next option is an option that, you know, the board talked about. And of course, a lot of parents also have asked about in having a hybrid face-to-face model. And as always, having the virtual academy as the other option. But with this hybrid model, it would combine both face-to-face and remote learning. So you'd have half of the student population in at a time. And we kind of just talk about it in an A-B schedule, cohort A, cohort B. And you base it on the address or last name so that, you know, obviously families are together. And we would recommend setting it so that one group, the A group, is Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday. And the other B group would be Tuesday, Thursday, and every other Friday. Obviously, with that, you have you're able to get the in-person teaching and continue to do some work in the online setting. It gives you an increased social emotional support. It gives teachers an opportunity to work with small groups. And we always want to reiterate, like I said earlier, parents would always have the full remote option. This would be for the remaining students, that if we chose the face-to-face, we could do it in a hybrid model. Next slide, please. So some of that with the hybrid model is that having that alternate schedule that gives us the ability to reduce class sizes by half of you know what would the remaining students. That would be, you know, assist in limiting the exposure to students. On the off days, what we would recommend is have, you know, the students would continue doing their work. They would basically be kind of flipping the classroom, so to speak, so that you would be able to, you know, do the readings, do the lectures, watch the videos, get some of that teacher input remotely. And then when you're in front of when the students are with the teachers, they would go over the work, be able to reiterate any of the coursework, be able to reteach, provide more examples, and so on. So that's always up to the teacher on how they would present, but it would allow that opportunity to be a little bit different, so that the work that was being done at home would kind of need less explanation. And then the student day, again, would still mirror the traditional school day. When they're at school, all the safety protocols would be in place that we outlined in the original document. Next slide. Continued considerations and challenges. You know, there still is teacher contact, but there's increased student support. So it's kind of a balance. You get that in-person feel with the smaller cohorts of students. Some of the other challenges, though, their roadmap still requires cleaning of secondary desks between all hours. That could mean additional staffing. We still have to work through making sure that those things have to be done. It could mean additional passing time to allow that cleaning to take place, and even with some of the product to be able to dry, like we talked about last week. So that it could mean that we'd have to look at our school times, because we still have to have, unless the governor extends her order, which could allow the days and hours to not be required. We anticipate that it ends September 30th, so we anticipate having to follow those rules. And of course, bringing kids in any case and any time that you have students in the building. Obviously, the protocols with positive cases needs to be followed as outlined by Macomb County Health Department. So those are some of the challenges and considerations of the hybrid. And I do, in closing, want to make sure, and Terry may have touched on this a little bit in the beginning, that the roadmap, when we talk about the roadmap, just want to make sure the board is aware that the roadmap has to be approved by August 15th. That roadmap doesn't tie you to any one of these options. That roadmap makes sure that you have been provided options and know that we have options and thought through how we could offer online learning, how we could offer in-person learning, or a hybrid model. It also makes sure that we're aware of the requirements for health and safety and cleaning for our buildings and buses and staff. It also makes sure that that we've addressed all of the required elements of the Michigan Return to School Roadmap. So I just want to point out that regardless of any option that we pick, and we can change options later throughout the year, whatever it may be, but the Return to School Roadmap has to be approved by August 15th by our board and by the ISD by August 17th. And that concludes our presentation of the 4 options.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. I think at this point, we'll go into the open forum. And we'll start with Eve Birchfield.
John, can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah, well,
I understand that there's a cap on this Zoom meeting of 300 people. Is it possible for us to start broadcasting it on YouTube or Facebook so others can watch it?
no, what we have is, and there's already people in it. During that presentation, I realized that we hit the 300 cap and we added another link on the website. It's on the front page. I'm trying, but the internet connection here is bad, trying to post that to Facebook. So if anybody's getting text messages from people, it's on the homepage of Anchor Bay's website, and it's a whole nother Zoom meeting where you can get into and see all the same stuff. So we have another 300 there. Right now, I think there's, about 50 in there now.
Okay, thank you.
So, thanks, so. Eve Birchfield.
I see her on there.
Is here? All right. Catherine Cruz.
John, I put it in the chat. I just want to remind people if they're planning to speak, they really should change their screen name to match their name, so it makes it easier for Tim to unmute them. So if they're in and it says Lexi's phone, that's not going to help us.
Okay. Yeah, and those that are, noticed up on the screen, if you notice where I'm sitting, we have, because of the interference we had the last time, all those messages are going to Tim Sizemore. I'm not seeing those. I see them up on the big screen here. This way the camera's on me and my computer is not. My computer here is just for information. But yeah, if you can change your screen names to whatever your name is that you put in to speak, so it matches when he searches it. But we're searching through 2 different Zooms now. So I'll come back to those names that I said, just in case they were underneath different areas. But we'll go till we find somebody. Michael Spolt.
Last one the only one I
Oh, first one you
found.
found is, okay, Dennis Richards. And we're gonna hold pretty strong to the 3 minutes tonight because we have over 70 speakers as of now. So if everybody speaks, that's 3.5 hours. So Lisa, are you gonna hold the timer? All right, I can do it. Go ahead, Dennis, Mr. Richards.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for the new presentation also. On June 17th, the governor announced that Michigan schools may resume in-person learning in phase 4 of the Michigan Safe Start Plan with strict safety measures in place. The governor also announced that on June 30th, she will release an executive order and a robust document called Michigan's Return to School Roadmap that will provide details of what will be required and what will be recommended for schools. On June 30th, the governor just did that. She released a 63-page plan of how Michigan schools could look if they reopen in the fall. 63 pages. The Anchor Bay Central Administration team had 21 working days to work on the parent update that was sent out on July 30th. If the Central Administration team consisted of just 5 members that worked on this plan, that would equate to 840 working hours. On July 30th, parents received the parent update that consisted of only 6 pages. At the school board meeting on August 5th, we were presented with 27 slides. I understand it was a draft, but I had higher expectations and thought the central administration team would not have left any stone unturned. With so many unanswered questions and important details left out, it is no wonder why we have so many mixed emotions on the roadmap, whether it is virtual or in-school learning. We have 12 schools and over 6,000 students. The positive test procedure protocols didn't even mention notifying parents of a positive test. Whatever the decision is made tonight, let's make sure we have a better plan the second time around. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Mr. Woodside said that the health department notifies of the test, not the school district. Just wanted to make that point. Liz Doby?
I'm down to Shannon. Like I said, they're not.
Nagy?
Yep.
N-A-G-A-I, or A-J.
AK.
There's 2. I think it's the same person. A-J.
Hi, thank you. This is Shannon. I'm just here to listen today. Oh. Okay, can you now?
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. I'm just here to listen today. I did not actually physically sign up for today's meeting. So thank you. I did put something in the chat. I just wanted to mention the Schoology. I know it was really hard in the spring, and I felt the presentation today did a thorough job. And I appreciate the fact that Anchor Bay would have, if the decision is made for face-to-face, and Schoology would be like kind of a mirror image of the classroom. So thank you for that presentation. It was really nice to get the inside view and a little presentation, and I look forward to more training on that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there a way you can just allow them to unmute themselves but we had the hands last time and that worked a lot better. What's the next one?
Yeah, I'm going through. Like I said, all the ones so far, they're not, either their names aren't there or not. I mean, you can ask them to raise their hand, but like I said, the ones on the list aren't showing up.
If you guys,
That's what I've been doing, and they're not showing up here. So, yeah, there's one here who's got their hand on mute, so we can unmute them.
Hello? Hello?
oh yeah, it doesn't have a name on that. Can you give your name, please?
My name is Kimberly Shea.
All right. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Yes, I just have a question. I'm not really sure on the different options. There's like 4 options. Now, does each individual family of the student that goes have an option to choose from one of those, or is it just one option all around?
those four options that were just put up there are really for tonight for the board to talk about, and for when we go to approve the return to school plan, we're going to pick from one of those. And then if we pick the one where it's virtual and face-to-face, then the parents would have a choice between those two. But if the board were to choose to go with the 100% virtual, then that would be, then the parents wouldn't have that option. So that's kind of what we're here tonight to talk about. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry to disrupt you, but so it's completely up to the school board on which option, not the parents, correct?
Correct. Yes. As of now.
Okay, you're just putting the options out there and what you will be considering.
Correct.
And,
yeah.
Thank you. And when should we be able to hear something? I mean, what you said by August 17th?
By August 15th, we have to approve a return to school plan. August 19th is our next meeting. And we'll see tonight. I'm sure we're going to discuss it and see where the board, if the board wants to make a decision tonight.
Okay, and also just one more thing. My son was asking, I have a 6th grader going into the school district and the 8th grader, and they were wondering about pictures. Is that something to discuss here, or do I discuss it on the website? Because I know a lot of parents are wondering about picture day. And is there any, there's no plans right now for incoming 6th graders or kindergartnerners? I have a kindergartner too. I mean, are they just going to be thrown into it without any introduction or what to expect?
Terry, do you want to hit on that real quick?
Yeah,
unmute Terry.
He's got to unmute himself. I can unmute him, I guess, but he should be able to unmute himself.
I'll jump in real quick on secondary. I can tell you that for the middle school, there still are plans for the Sailor Success, the orientation days. The principals put that information out. They'll put that out to the parents. That is for secondary. Terry?
Yeah, our transition for kindergarten is usually done in May. So of course that didn't happen this year. But we will set something up for students to be able to meet their teachers beforehand.
Thank you. And there'll be more to come, but I just wanted them to answer your question,
Okay.
We are going to have stuff.
Okay, thank you. Just one more comment I'd like to make. I have my son who's going into 6th grade. He's in special ed. He has resources that he needs help with, and he doesn't learn the same way at home as he does in school. And I just feel like if it's all at school or all at home, if I tell him to do something, he doesn't do it very easily. Where he listens to the teacher better, and his learning is more effective being with a teacher in class versus home. And I know if he has all virtual learning, his education is really going to hurt. I mean, it's really going to go down because he really needs that in school, in-person attention. And I just want the school board to consider that, because as a parent with a child with an IEP, and learning disability, that's a major concern for me. And I don't want to have to hold him back in 6th grade again if I don't have to. And just please consider those special needs, students.
Yeah, thank you for that, and I appreciate that concern. And there's no easy decisions here, and we completely understand.
Thank you.
Is that
Lisa? This one here.
Lisa McComber?
Hello. My name is Lisa McCumber, and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I appreciate the difficult decision you are all faced with. It seems there are no good options, and yet you have been given a quick timeline by the state to develop a plan. My children are going to be 1st and 3rd graders at Lottie Schmidt Elementary this year. We are a 2-working parent household, so if you make the decision to start 100% remotely in September, like so many other neighboring districts have done, I will have no choice but to take FMLA. And yet, I am urging you to select that option for the safety of our students, staff, and their families. I have reviewed your plan and have concerns as it stands and in the context in which it's being executed. We are in a different place now than we were in June and July when these plans were initiated. Since then, there has been community spread, particularly among teens, that is making headlines. Cases in general are on the rise, and new research and studies are showing the virus's effect on kids and their ability to transmit it is stronger than we once thought. Just 6 days ago, Harvard's Global Health Institute determined Macomb County as orange, meaning that the risk level is spreading at an accelerated speed. We can look to the districts in the southern states to see that kids can and will catch this virus and that some will die. I hear people urging us to reopen because socialization is important for students, and I agree that it is. But how much socialization can socially distance? I hear face-to-face advocates saying that we need back to normal and give our kids consistency. Things are vital, but are impossible at the moment. If we go back to face-to-face instruction, school will not be normal. At my kids' level, that means no manipulatives to help with math learning. It means that teachers may not be able to help my children with proper pencil grip or give them a hug when they are scared because the teachers have to socially distance. And I believe that going back to school now will lead to more inconsistency, as schools will inevitably have to shut down when we see the increase in positive cases or when we have weeks upon weeks of substitute teachers because their children have to quarantine or are sick. You have the opportunity as a board to start remotely for the first quarter, which would allow the county to get our COVID numbers back down from our current accelerated speed, and would give the district more time to prepare and set up safety protocols and equipment for face-to-face instruction. As much as I desire my children to be back with the absolutely wonderful teachers at Lottie, it is hard to negate the science data and anecdotal evidence working against a safe start. I acknowledge the challenge that remote learning presents to families. I recognize how hard this is for all stakeholders, but I think we need to ask ourselves what we are willing to wager for the sake of returning to the idea of conventional schooling when it will be anything but that. Please put the safety of our community above the desire to return to a sense of normalcy and vote for the 100% virtual start for the first quarter. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Right at 3 minutes. Good job. All right. Next, we have
Marv Dupree.
Marv Dupree.
Yes.
You're up.
All right. Thank you for not butchering my name, by the way.
Sorry.
But three things. One, if virtual learning takes place, how will that impact the sports, especially for the seniors and the seniors who is looking to play at the next level? And then the other is multiple student households. How is that supposed to happen when the household may only have one laptop? And then lastly, if the students return back to in-school learning, will the school board meetings be held in person?
Okay. I would say on the one I would touch on that, the school board meetings we'll go back to in person as soon as we can. I think right now we're allowed underneath the current rules. As far as the other stuff, I'll down the line let the administration handle those. You want to turn on your Mr. Woodside will address.
I would just add that yes, we are, as far as the sports, we're working with the Michigan High School Athletic Association in regards to that.
It's hard to hear him.
You got to put it right up to your mouth.
Man, I've never been told that.
There you go.
Well, when I talked to you in the parking lot a couple of weeks ago, you were a little louder than what you're talking now. So,
but the Michigan High School Athletic Association is reviewing, currently, and we don't know the direction it's going to go yet. I mean, it changes by the day. So as far as sports, that is something we're working with the Michigan High School Athletic Association. As far as the laptop, I know that what Mr. Wedge and Mr. McDonald had discussed, taking that into account, that the lesson plans that would be videoed would be, so a student at any time could go on there and review what the lesson plan was, what the presentation is. So we're cognizant of that, and we're taking that into consideration that with larger families, we have to have the option where the kids would access the lesson plan throughout the day if needed. The school board meetings, those are governed by, the state, and we know right now we can't have more than 10 people together. So that's why we have to continue on Zoom. When it'll be in person, that's under an executive order by the governor. So that would have to change under an executive order.
All right, got you. And lastly, with the in-school learning, so with the virtual learning, so if they do have the virtual learning and the Michigan, the high school state say that, hey, we can play sports, is there a plan in place to accommodate that now? Or is it gonna have to create one when they say yay or nay?
Well, I think the practices for any of the sports would be same as if the kids were in school, because the virtual learning, they're still going to be, as was discussed earlier, they're still going to be required to have class during the day. So as far as if the sports did continue, they would continue after school like they currently are.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Kyle Capel?
Yes, thank you. Let's see. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thanks. So my wife sent an email to the board today. Last night, and I'm not sure if you all received it. I hope you did and had a chance to review it. I'm going to save us time and not read that email word for word. I'd just like to touch on a few points. Mainly, my wife and I are strongly advocating for in-person learning options. Again, we would like that as an option. We're not saying that you should force anybody into one direction or another. We strongly believe that the evidence supports the ability to have safe in-school and effective in-school instruction for our students and our children. One of the things I just wanted to touch on is, from a healthcare perspective, my wife is a registered nurse, and she shared her email to the board on several anchor-based social media pages. And I was surprised to see many other medical professionals strongly support the in-school decision as well. And these are the nurses and doctors who are working with COVID patients, or who were working with COVID patients on a daily basis. And I say were because the hospitals don't have COVID patients in them today. They're few and far between. So despite what we see in the media, the reality of Macomb County and the Michigan cases is very different from what's publicized. We all know that fear sells, drama sells, so no one wants to report the good news. But the reality is, from a healthcare perspective, the healthcare professionals will tell you that the cases are extremely rare today. So we just need to take that consideration. We're talking about the big picture and the scientific information, is we don't want to read headlines from national news and world news. We want to read headlines from our local health departments, from our local hospitals, and from our local medical professionals. So next point, sorry, bear with me here. You've a couple people have touched on this, is the socialization and mental health of the students. And again, we believe that's very important and just something you cannot do virtually. It's a major disconnect. And then again, as the previous speaker mentioned, technology access is an issue for a lot of students. And it's gonna cause problems for families if they're forced to go into in-home learning. We're fortunate enough in our house where it's not going to be an issue, but I see huge separation and gap forming in those students that are underprivileged, don't have access to the same technology or the same home support network as other students would have. So take that consideration as well, please. And then just based on Schoology from the
about 10 seconds
spring,
just to wrap up.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay.
No,
So just wrapping up, the Schoology in the spring and summer was less than satisfactory. It really didn't work out well for anybody. And I understand that it was kind of a a rash, quick decision, and the teachers had to scramble to make it work. But I just don't see that you still have had enough time to effectively implement that in person, and I have concerns that it's just not going to be an effective online method of education.
All right, thank you for your concerns. I just want to, and for you and for a lot of the others that I know have sent emails since our last meeting. I'm sure all the board members, I know myself, I've gotten over 300. Tried to read every one of them. I usually like to respond, and I'm sure other board members like to too, but we hear you and we hear what, there's a lot on both sides of this issue, and that's the toughness of this decision. There's professionals that will tell you both sides. So, who's next? Christy? I don't have a last name.
Moore.
Christy Moore?
Christy Moore.
All right.
To wait for him to unmute it. I did it.
What's that?
I did ask him to unmute it. We're just waiting to see if she unmutes it. There she goes.
She did.
See it to unmute it.
Ask her to unmute it. Christy?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So my question is, I heard you guys talk about the SAC and you were going to talk about it. Is there anything, if you go back to school, will they have that?
Will they have what?
The SAC program.
Oh, the SAC program. Terry?
Yes, we are planning SAC, and currently the buildings have licensing for one room. So it depends on how many students we're going to need as to if we open that up. But yes, SAC is looking, we're planning for that, yes.
Okay. And then will you guys, if it's online, have something that a teacher has to get the lesson plans up at a certain time? We had issues of Mondays were a loss for us because I couldn't get my daughter prepared because I was in bed sleeping to work. I worked through all of this, and I couldn't be up at midnight telling my daughter what she had to do, as she has ADD and is not real well at doing things herself.
I think that'll be Terry or Joe. Which one of you wants to address that?
I can address it.
All right.
Yes, absolutely. That lesson plans are posted on a regular basis, and we'd have expectations made clear so that they're posted on a weekly basis. Most buildings have them posted Monday morning by 8 a.m. And with Schoology, it's different than posted lesson plans. It is the daily lesson. Like we showed the template, it has each day, so that those days would be published and available on each day. So they would always be there. That's the expectation. Each days would be different, and it would be available on that day.
Okay, because I have to go over it with her in order for her to understand what is expected of her. So she never did anything on Mondays because I was not home to go over that with her.
Okay.
So my last question was, I also have a high schooler, and if they have a gym requirement, is that's going to be online as well?
I think that's something they're working through, but I'll let Joe.
Well, that would depend on the option. Yeah, there would be virtual or in remote PE. Yep. So if we're remote, there would still be. We're trying to make every course available where it's feasible, and definitely PE can be done remotely.
Okay, that was it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. We got Zachary.
Hey, John, can I throw something out there really quick? She was asking about SAC, And I wanted to make sure that I'm making it clear that we're going to give priority to all the essential workers and staff members first. So we want to make sure that that was clear for SAC, but we are definitely looking into everything.
Okay. Thank you.
Am I still unpaused?
Mute you.
Then we're going to Zachary.
We had a question in regards to, I think one of the other parents had answered it. It was with respect to, do we have a choice on the 4 options, or is it what the board is going to end up picking?
Yeah, it's up to tonight's or within the next, tonight basically is up to the board on which 4 of those options we'd be looking at. So.
And I'm sorry, and my wife has a question.
And would there be a special consideration if we have a child at risk? One of our children is severely asthmatic. So would that have any consideration in the choice?
Yeah, you would, in whichever one of the options we end up going with, you would contact your building principal and they would work out something with you.
John, this is Todd. I can speak to that. There's always going to be a virtual option available. So if you wanted your student to take advantage of that virtual option, that would always be available in every one of those different options.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. I was had the understanding that those are the 4 options, and then the board's going to decide on one of them, and whatever that decision is, we're all going to follow that suit.
Yeah, but like to what Mr. Radbun said, all of them will have the virtual option because we have to have that for those parents that don't feel comfortable sending their kids to the school.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. Peyton?
Hello, this is actually husband, Curtis Kalashewski. As a family physician, I would like to echo what Kyle said about 10 minutes ago. I am not seeing hospitalizations in my hospital. We are not seeing deaths in Macomb County anywhere close to where we were seeing. So without getting into some of those details, one concern that I would love to know is, what are the professionals that the board has discussed? Where are they getting the information to help guide them with the concerns regarding safety? And the safety concern is twofold. It's our child safety and staff safety. There are very, very, very few physicians that concern themselves with COVID causing major harm to kids. Way more concern with mental health and the ramifications of the neglect, abuse, misuse, etc., that will continue like it did in the spring across our country. And so I definitely don't understand nearly the concern about COVID. Just because the cases are there in the community or in the country doesn't mean it's as deadly. The concentration of viral particles in our bodies when we have it is half of what it was 3 or 4 months ago. The virus is not as potent, and I think we've learned quite a bit more about it, especially how to treat it. So cases doesn't mean deaths, doesn't mean it's a blanket statement. And lastly, I would like to know, do we for sure have options for teachers to elect to be a virtual only teacher as opposed to being forced per se, if the in-class options are given, that those teachers will have to be in the classroom if they don't choose that is in their best interest. Thank you very, very much for your efforts.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for your concerns. And I think you hit on a lot of the issues that we're grappling with. And as far as, returning to school within all the guidelines that were set forth by the state and by the different organizations, it's hard to do that within those guidelines to protect our students, and the staff and the teachers is also a big part of it. I've hit with a lot of people saying, give the parents the choice. It's up to them. If they don't feel comfortable, send them. If they do or if they don't feel comfortable, they don't send them. If they do, send them. But our teachers then wouldn't have that choice. And I mean, some would maybe, but we only have so many teachers. So it's that's part of the problem that we're dealing with. I'll let Mr. Woodside wanted to.
Yeah, Joe, I was just going to share. We do on a weekly basis, sometimes more. We consult with Macomb County Health Department, Dr. Walker, we talk with directly and review these plans with. So that's who we're working with, to the other question, once the board, once we know the direction we're going, the more detail like you're asking will be put out very soon after.
Okay, Steve's
iPad.
Hello.
Steve? All right.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to speak in favor of the 100% going back to school with the kids because just like the gentlemen previous to me have said that we're not seeing the COVID cases we are in Wayne County or in Macomb County. And I'm in the emergency healthcare, and I also teach at Macomb College. And through the summer, I've taught 25 students with distance learning inside there in the classrooms. But it's worked out well. We had no cases, and everybody graduated, and so it was a positive thing, and it was very good for the students. We made it the best possible learning environment in order to follow all the guidelines that the governor had in place. But at the end, they graduated. With doing the emergency stuff, we had high cases of COVID patients right away in March and April through the apex and everything. And then all of a sudden, a month and a half, 2 months ago, they dropped off completely. We're not taking anybody to the hospitals as much. We're not going on 10 or 15 calls a day or all day or doing any CPRs or any of that stuff. It's dropped off the face of the earth. The governor has just reinflicted the wound with the mask in the community, going in the stores and everything. And it might be a good thing to keep the numbers down, but the cases aren't there anymore. So I'm in favor of 100% going back to school. And since you have both options in those plans of going back to school 100% and somebody who doesn't want to send their kid back to school, they can do remote learning, then that's up to that parent or that family. But then also the families that do want to go back to school, they can go back to school. So it gives everybody an option. So it's not like somebody's hijacking the options and saying, we're just doing remote learning completely. So, and as a teacher, I was fine with it. So, but that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your concerns. Go to Shelley. MG.
Hello. Hi, my name is Shelley. I'm a COVID-19 ICU nurse. As previously, like Kyle and Peyton said, we haven't had any hospitalization for COVID-19 patients. The numbers are there, but there are a lot of asymptomatic carriers and carriers that are very mild. So it's not like we're having high hospitalization or deaths. We were having it in March and April. So I personally am in favor for my kids to go back to school, especially because it's not like the parents who are not in favor are keeping their kids at home. Everyone's going to the restaurant, they're going to the park, they're going out and about everywhere else. So why not school? But I do agree that there should be an option for teachers to choose whether they want to go to school and teach in person, because they might take it back to their loved ones who have comorbidities that may not be able to manage this. That was the first thing I wanted to say. And second thing is, due to the long period of no in-person education for my kids, the previously IEP that we had to close for learning disability, now I have to be able to contact Mr. Wedge again through the MISD to get learning IEPs related to dyslexia, and ADHD, which was not well managed during, not having the ability to, have in-person teaching. So those were my 2 points.
Thank you. Go to
Rachel.
Rachel S.
Hey there. I think she was kind of just answering my question a little bit there. My one son who's in middle school, he is on a 504 plan, and we are kind of leaning towards doing the virtual school. What kind of support will he have having that plan in place for him if he is doing virtual?
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
I can help with that too.
Okay, I'll start and fill in if I miss something. With virtual students, the IEPs and the 504s would be, IEPs would be run through Zoom, and 504s would be implemented to the best of the ability, depending on what that accommodation is. With the 504, anything that can be done to support learning through a virtual setting would be done. So those are looked at. If a 504 says to sit closer to the teacher, obviously that comes into play where it's hard, your kids at home. But any learning supports that can be done virtually get implemented. Terry, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that parents understand that when we return back to school, all of the students with IEPs and 504s will have a contingency plan that will be reviewed at the beginning of the school year to look at all the accommodations. And of course, we're going to have resource room teachers available as well as all the ancillary staff. So if they get speech therapy or OT, PT, those things will still be delivered to the students in the way that whatever way that we're going back to school in. So just be rest assured that we will be going to review all the plans before school starts.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Anthony
thank
Martin.
you for that. Anthony Martin?
Yeah, I just want you guys to take into consideration a lot of these families where both parents work. Like in my family, my wife works for the healthcare industry, and I do essential HVAC work. My kids have been going to daycare through this whole thing with class sizes probably, just cut down, but not gone. My kids also need face-to-face learning because I don't have time to sit home and give them the extra help they need, with all the only online learning stuff. At the end of the year last year, it went terrible. So I wasn't impressed with any of it. I don't like that option. And I hope we have an option for the face-to-face learning. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
We got 2 more on the other side.
Elizabeth? What's the last, does it have last name?
B-A-G-O-S.
B-A-G-O-S.
So go ahead.
Okay.
Can you put the microphone up to it, Tim? She's on the other Zoom call to those listening on the other one, so.
My husband and I both work full time, and our children, while they do each have their own computers, it's difficult to work full time all day long and then come home to teach them, because that's what we would have to do. But we wouldn't be able to follow a schedule. 8 a.m. till 9 a.m. is, math for one kid and then something for another kid. How do you have any ideas for what parents like us would do with our children? Or how we would be able to teach them during the day like that? Or if we have a babysitter, we're worried about our family and how we will do things, but I know a lot of other parents are in the same boat.
Mr. Woodside?
Yeah, I think as Joe and the elementary, secondary, this is going to look different than the virtual, the online distance learning that we had done when we had the closure. So
I'm sorry, I can hardly hear you.
There you go.
When we had the closure, all the schools at the March, getting close to the end of the school year, what you had seen then is going to be a lot different if we were virtual going into next school year. There's going to be a lot more, lot more visuals, a lot more tools for the parents to use than what you had seen before, and more support.
I guess I'm just wondering, is it going to be, your offer virtual learning, is it completely structured so that from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. you have math, and then from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. the kids will have reading? Is it going to be like that? And if our kids are on at that time, it's going to be an issue, or could we maybe do school at night? Because that's what would work for our family.
Yeah, what grade are your kids?
One is going to 6th grade, one is going into 4th.
Okay, well, Terry, Joe?
Yes. Can you rephrase that? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
I caught it. In terms of the structure, like we said, with Schoology, I mean, Schoology is, you log into it. There will be times when live videos would be an option, and there's also that work that is loaded into Schoology, so kids access it as they can. We recommend that you follow that structure, and for those when you can't follow that structure, any videos that were available live will be there also in a recorded fashion, so that it can be accessed at any time. And in the households where there's a learning coach, someone there to help with the learning, they could do it right as it goes each day. And also, if you're in a situation where you need the flexibility to do it in the evening hours, then it can also be accessed then, if that's when the student has someone there to help. So we're structured it so there could be flexibility, but ultimately, for the younger kids in particular, kids who need the coaching, that is recommended for an online setting.
Okay, thank you. I just know that like Utica Schools is going to be very structured, and you have to be online at a certain time to take attendance. And I just wanted to know if it will be that forceful with Anchor Bay, or if there's going to be a little bit more leeway.
Yes, and that was described in the presentation when we showed the schedules of online learning. It shows that, class would start at 8:30, and from 8:30 to 10 o'clock, we would have language arts. So it was very scheduled and structured. And that's what we're planning to do for the fall.
Okay, we have one more over there, Tim.
Yes. Dorset.
What's that?
Like it's Dorset.
Priestley, Dorset.
Yep, I'm here. I'm just wondering, I know you guys mentioned the option of kindergarten through 2nd grade going in school. And some of the comments that were made were that it's harder for those children to sit still. And I'm a little bit baffled at why it wouldn't just be all elementary school. I get that we're trying to limit the amount of students in the building, but let's be honest, 3rd and even 4th graders don't sit still either. And so I just think that if we're going with a partially, part of kids being able to go to school, should really be considered for all of elementary, and then middle school and high school can be online. I don't agree with that option at all. I think that we should have the option to go back to school if we so choose. But I'm just a little confused at why it was so limited to K through 2nd. And then also, I don't think anybody's thinking about
all of the single parents in our community, me being one of them. I work full-time as a business manager for a local company. I work 40 hours a week. It is just me and my child in my home. I cannot possibly be home with her all day, every day. She's in 3rd grade. She can't be home by herself. So I don't think we're fully looking at the entire picture of this in the course of, she's gonna have to go somewhere. All of these kids are going to have to go somewhere. So why not just send them back to school? And then also, if school's open, I've heard them say that healthcare and first responders and stuff and staff will be priority for SAC. Once again, what about single parents? If I need before or after school care, I'm gonna need care. I don't have the option to just leave her with the other parent.
Okay. Is there?
We got a couple more on this side.
Overview. Thank you for those concerns, and we'll take those into consideration. Jason DeShane.
Yes, hi. I have a 6th grade, or I'm sorry, I have an 8th grade, a 9th grade, and a 12th grade student. And I would just like you to know your decision, whatever you guys make here. Just remember, there's school of choice, and I don't know if you're worried about any drops in attendance or anything like that, but in school, learning is pretty important to us. And I just want you to realize that school of choice is an option, and you might lose enrollment, which could have a dramatic effect on the district. And that's all I have to say there.
Thank you.
Lisa?
Lisa.
This has Lisa.
Lisa.
Hi, my name is Lisa Anichi. I had a couple things that I'd like to say about the virtual. Since it is going to be offered to everybody as an option, why is it essentially being looked at to being forced for a lot of people? There's a lot of single parents that don't have an FMLA option where they can stay home. There's a lot of people that are physicians who have to go to work, and or other teachers who, you know, are kids. It's a necessity for a lot of teachers to go in. You know, mental health is an issue. There's a lot of issues where, you know, like remote learning just doesn't seem to be the option. So if you can or are able to virtually do it, good for you, and do it, but it should still be open for the people that don't have that flexibility in their lives.
Thank you. Go to, just says Galaxy tab. If you could just state your name.
That would be me. My name is Sarah Thomas.
All right. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. I just want to say that I liked how, as of last week, you gave parents a choice whether to do online or in person. I went through your MAP plan, and being realistic, I know as a parent that all of those precautions are going to be near impossible for you to do with all the students. But as a parent, I feel it's my choice to make if I want to be willing to send my kid or if I want to do the online. My problem with the online is that we do not have good internet service where we live. We're out in the country, and I have 3 students at home. So in the spring, we were, you know, the kids trying to take turns, and then I was working from home a couple days a week. And so it was very hard to get all 3 kids and my work done in a school day. And to be honest, I asked my children if they learned anything last spring, and they said that they did not. That it was just more busy work. They did it to get it done. And we did take it serious. I wasn't one of the people that said, you know, this isn't going to count. I made my kids do it daily. They completed most of their assignments. I work full time, and it's going to be hard for me to help my children and assist them because they still do guidance. You know, I mean, they need guidance. My kids are older, but no matter what age they're at, they still need guidance. They're students, they're in school. I guess one question I would have is, did you take into consideration, maybe if we were to do in-person schooling and you're going to have more time to do like the screening processes and, you know, to make sure everyone's safe to attend school. Have you ever considered just doing the core classes? I mean, the 4, your language arts, math, science, and social studies for now?
Go ahead. Mr. Woodsack?
Yeah, we have looked at, we've looked at many different options on how we would go about this. And what we did is got it down from the last board meeting, the input from the board. And that's why we have the 4 options that the board is reviewing today was input. But there was several different options that were studied and reviewed. And the one that you shared was also one that I know we looked into. I think it was a couple weeks ago.
They're just going to the core classes?
Yeah, that's not
correct
what we're doing, but, you know, that has been shared with other parents. There's other parents that have emailed that to us with that same idea that's being shared this evening.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for your input. Is that Marty?
Yeah, Marty. Waddington?
Yeah. Waddington?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
First of all, I want to thank you very much for allowing this forum for people to come forward. This is a very complicated issue and something our country hasn't faced before. And I appreciate your diligence in doing it. There's always two sides to the argument. Doesn't matter if you look at experts and their thoughts on the pandemic and virus versus others. They have different opinions, but I have kind of 3 separate questions that are more logistic based. I think it was Mr. Sizemore that had mentioned, if you go back to in-person learning and an individual in a classroom tests positive and that individual participated in 6 classes that day, potentially could every person that individual came in contact be required to be quarantined at home for 14 days? And I know this is something the school probably doesn't dictate. It will be dictated by the county, but is that my understanding?
Yeah, we would consult with if we have a COVID positive, yes, we would consult with the Macomb County Health Department and they would give us direction from there. So if we were to close the school, that's something we would consult with the health department in order to do that. I think the idea that if you had a student that did test positive for COVID, one of the possibilities are, yes, all the students in those classes, if it was a high schooler, 25 kids in each class, it's very well possible that 150 kids would be quarantined and those on the bus. That is a possibility. But again, that's something that we would work with the Macomb County Health Department on. And they've told us that they'll take everything on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. My second question is with the mask requirement, which we know is by executive order from our governor, the teacher role is very challenging to begin with, even before the pandemic. Has the school talked about actions that could be taken for children, whether it's, you know, it's hard for little kids to wear a mask all day if they're in school 7 hours a day, as well as teenagers can be a little bit defiant and sometimes. What is the plan if someone chooses not to wear a mask in school?
you would have a medical note to do that.
And if they don't have a medical note? Like is it gonna be the teachers that are required to enforce the mask wearing?
Well, I think all the staff, well, it's for the safety of all of us. So, whether it's administrators or any staff, students not wearing masks, they're going to be asked to wear a mask. That's part of, the roadmap to return. And if you're not wearing a mask, yes, we would ask that you'd have a doctor's note as any other accommodations we would make. Do ask for doctor's notes for those.
Okay, and
It's
then
it's not much different than what we've done in the past. If there's accommodations to make, and we ask for a note from the doctor.
I can, but I do feel it's going to be a challenge for children to wear masks all day long in the school environment. And I can imagine this might create another challenge for teacher in the classroom as a disciplinary aspect of having kids put their masks back on. And I just want to bring that forth as something you consider as you go through that. And then lastly, my question is, if parents choose to send their children to the virtual versus in person, will children that are participating in the virtual learning versus in person be able to participate in sports?
That was brought up earlier, yes, as long as the MHSAA has the sports going and they're going to school either virtual or online, they will be able to participate in that sport if it's open.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Is Jamie still on there? I know she had her hand up.
Yep.
Jamie Petron?
So I asked her to unmute it. We'll see if she.
Jamie?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Sorry, I was saying that I couldn't be unmuted.
That's all right. Perfect.
I was going to speak during union communication, but I feel like it's important now when we're having this discussion, the public's coming forward to give their concerns, that I address the concerns that our teachers have. My name is Jamie Petron. I'm the president of the Anchor Bay Education Association, which represents all the teachers in our district. First of all, I would like to thank everybody in this meeting who has put in the time on these plans. It is something that in 20 years as an educator, I believe is the biggest challenge that our public schools have ever had to face. And it isn't something that I think anyone's taken lightly. I think everybody's done a great job of working together and trying to come up with what's best for our students. That being said, I always tell my membership that I'm going to tell you what I know for sure. So this is what I think I know for sure. We are still in a pandemic. School starts in 28 days. Our teachers desperately want to be back in school. We want to be with our students. We want things to go back to normal just like everybody else. We want to know that we are what we are teaching. We want to start working on lesson plans and instructional techniques, regardless of how that may look. We want to teach. We miss our school buildings. We miss our coworkers. And more than anything, we miss our kids. We need a decision to be made one way or another tonight so that we can provide the exceptional instruction that our district is known for and get on to planning. Something else I know for sure is that I have never seen more anxiety and unrest from educators as I do right now. As a leader, I am worried about my members. Teachers are literally caught in the crossfire of the school reopening debate, and that seems to have taken over social media and the news. It's not right, it's not fair, and it's really disheartening to see all the negativity being thrown in our direction. We are human beings too, and just like every one of you, we have our own families and our own situations to manage and worry about. We don't have a choice. We are waiting for our choice to be made for us. I watch my own boys struggle daily with the impact of this pandemic. Like many of you, I earn for the normalcy of life in the school day. I worry about what this is doing to them emotionally. As a working single mother, I worry about childcare. And what if their school goes fully remote? I worry about their health, keeping them safe, making the best decisions I can for them. Should I enroll them in virtual? Should I send them to whatever school is going to look like? Regardless of your personal opinion about what is going on in the world, as a parent, we are desperate for some sort of relief and some sort of answers. But this is where I struggle. Anchor Bay Public Schools, like other public school districts, have been faced with developing a plan for proper hygiene practices, the use of face coverings, distancing students in classrooms and on buses, screening students and staff, and responding to confirmed cases of COVID-19. This is a monumental task, and discussions often lead to more questions than answers. How can we social distance classrooms with limited space? How will we social distance secondary hallways and lunches? How will confirmed cases be handled? Which I think somebody answered already, so I apologize. What if 10 teachers need to be quarantined in a building? Who's going to fill in for them? We already face a teacher and a sub shortage. How do you social distance on the bus? Who will be handling the sanitation of classrooms? Is that our job now? If so, who will monitor the hallways during class passing time? We'll be hiring more teachers and support staff to comply with the mandates. Does the district have the funding for this? Who will ensure students keep their masks on? What about those students who refuse? How will I interactively teach hands-on lessons with my students if I cannot share supplies? How will we work in groups? The list goes on and on and on. Until we have solid answers to all the questions above, and all those that I haven't listed, I am truly not able to say with confidence that we'll have this plan ready to roll out on September 8th, safely for in-person instruction. We all want normal, but we all need to do what is right and safe for our students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
E. Zimmer.
E. Zimmer.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir. My name is Mike Zimmer. I want to thank you very much for allowing me to speak today. I have 2 children that attend Great Oaks Elementary School, and I myself am an elementary school principal. And I'd like to start by telling you, as an educator and a parent, I am so impressed with Great Oaks Elementary. Mr. Medley and his entire staff do a fantastic job. I see them often for IEP meetings for my daughter, and I always try to tell them how much I appreciate them and the quality of instruction and attention that they give both my kids, especially my daughter. With that being said, I do have some concerns. With my daughter having an IEP, she will not get, or at least it's not, the quality is not there when meeting remotely like many other people spoke about earlier. I know for me, my wife and I both work for a district, and we are considered to be essential. Therefore, we are one of those folks who have to figure out what we're going to do with our children. And I love Great Oaks Elementary, but I have no choice but to take my daughter away from the people who have taken a lot of time to build relationships with her. They have done more for her than her former school, and I'm very proud of that. And I want to keep her there, but I'm afraid I'm not going to have that option. And I think other parents are going to be forced into a similar situation. I believe the number you said was around 80% of the families wanted the choice to be able to choose in school. That's a large percentage. And I know I'm just one, but how does that affect the district financially if many people like me are forced to opt out of Anchor Bay? Again, something I do not want to do, but my children, especially my daughter, need face-to-face. And with me being essential, I need to take her somewhere else. I'd like to talk about essentials. I worry about my teachers and myself going back into the building, as well as all the teachers in Anchor Bay. But I do believe we are essential. I think we're considered frontline workers. Please remember all the meals that were passed out while we were shut down. We need to, I love the fact that you had the social emotional piece in there. I think that's crucial. But how many times did you guys call CPS? How many welfare checks were there? It's hard to do when we don't see those kids. And I think that's something we need to think about as well. I'm sure you guys have done it. I've knocked on doors just to check on kids because of that unknown. I think it's important that we see the kids who need to be in the building, whose parents need to send them, get them the best quality education they can. And I'm trying to look at my notes, excuse me. But yeah, I just wanted to bring up the part of the
5
CPS
seconds.
and welfare checks.
Okay. You good?
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll go to Laura Florian. Looks like.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
My biggest concern is I have 3 children, one going into 3rd, one going into 4th, and one going into 6th. How I myself can actually sit there and homeschool these children. I mean, at the end of last year, I ended up quitting 3 weeks towards the end of the year. I just couldn't do it. The anxiety that this has caused, and I know it's with everybody, and I really am thankful for all of you guys, but I just don't know how these parents are going to do this with multiple children, even one child. I have my older son has ODD, ADD, anxiety, depression, and it was impossible for me to even get him to write 3 sentences last year or in March. It's a struggle, but when he's with his teachers, he works wonderfully. So, I mean, I'm all for the in-person schooling. And that's it, really. I just really want you guys to consider, these children that have issues, and even some of the children that don't. It's just going to be hard for them.
Thank you.
I have 2 in the back.
2
more.
Okay.
Rachel?
Rachel.
Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Yep, go ahead. We can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, hi.
Hello.
All right, the question we have, and understand everything, and the springtime with short no notice, what is the school district offering if we have to go virtual? Is there a guarantee that the school district is coming to the table with a better program than what they had in the spring?
Like, is it outlined with an actual virtual academy? And we understand they did the very best job that they could with the
timeline.
The timeline of what happened with COVID. An outstanding job on their part.
Yes, I think they have a much different program set up this time, and they went over a little bit in the beginning. I'll let Mr. McDonald or Mr. Wedge want to chime in on that just quickly.
Yeah, to start back, we're making sure that teachers are going to mirror whatever's in the classroom to their own Schoology courses. So we're going to make sure that those are syncing together to mirror each other. In case we have to go remote the next day, then teachers are prepared. So we're definitely going to have, even the in-person teachers would have their Schoology up to date every day.
Yeah, and we have the common template. We're working with our teachers with our teachers and our teacher union to work on having live videos. We're looking at having recorded videos. We have the structure that is like Terry said, an exact mirror. So as we presented earlier, the setup, the Schoology trainings that have been developed, the work that the virtual learning committees have done throughout the summer, that's how it's going to be a lot different than the spur of the moment virtual learning that was sprung on us in the spring. So there's been a great amount of work that has already been done, and there's still much work to do that's already been is planned and laid out.
Okay. Well, like I wasn't able to, my husband and I were not able to get in access to anything for our children except to see grades, to see what they were missing. So we were not able to help them with their homework, as it were. And our son was in the honors courses. Is there anything that we can see if they're only in the virtual program except for what they see? Because they're going to be a parent page so that we can help them, or like some sort of parent access so we can ask questions other than Schoology. I'm just asking because that would be really helpful. Here's some ways that we could understand how to help them along the way, or sending emails to the teacher. Everybody's busy. Just wondering.
Well, emails and phone calls are always, part of a teacher parent communication, and they'll continue to be. And we do also have a parent training page already developed that will be available to any parent who will be a part of the virtual learning setting. And if we can have that available, we've talked about having the parent virtual training nights as we get closer to school. That program and the training has already been developed.
Okay, that's great. I'm sorry I missed that portion. Thank you for answering that question.
All right.
And so when will some of these decisions, did you say the 15th to the 17th, these decisions will be made? I'm all for my children going back to school. We're two parents that are fine with the decisions, but we also know that rapid things change and maybe they have to come home, and maybe it's hybrid. So
We're going to be, basically that's what we're discussing tonight. Once we, hear from we just heard from the, their revised plan and the options they gave us, and then we're listening to the public's comments, and then we'll be talking about it as a board and possibly making that decision.
Okay. Yep.
Thank
I'm
you.
just hoping that, there's a decision that will be made.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Carrie Tinkle.
Yes, hi. Actually, I'm going to speak on two issues. The first one is, as an educator as well as serving the role of administration, I have to speak on behalf of the teachers and administrators in that towards the end of the year, we were doing the absolute best we could do with what we had. I don't think anyone was prepared for what happened, and I can speak on behalf of the teachers at Anchor Bay, especially middle school and north. They did a tremendous job, again, with what they had. It was very short notice. And again, with my role being an educator in administration, it was a struggle for everyone. We did what we could do. So, hats off to the staff of Anchor Bay. And I think that parents are getting almost a misconception that if we go virtual, that they have to teach, and that's not the case. We are the teachers. That is our job. That is what we will be doing. And I know this time around that it is going to be structured differently. I know in my district, we're running the day just as a normal day would be. So the students have to, if they have their first hour of class from 8 to 9:05, they log in and take attendance. If they're not there, they're marked absent. So I know it's going to be structured like that. But switching roles now as a parent, when I looked at the original plan, and apologies if there's been a revised plan that I have not seen, but if we do end up going back in person, the only social distancing that I saw was going to be at lunchtime. So I guess the question I'm asking now, is there not going to be any other social distancing during the day?
Mr. McDonald?
Like we talked about, it depends on the option. One of the options, again, with a hybrid and having two different cohorts come in, and knowing that some people will choose a virtual setting That will reduce the numbers off the bat, and then having one of the options gives you some more social distancing with a hybrid. Other options that if that also then obviously has kids coming in every other day. And if an option was chosen to be 100% back face-to-face, then social distancing is going to be a challenge. So there's pros and cons to each one of these, and some of our plans include greater social distancing abilities, and others make it more difficult. If we choose to have everyone come back every day, it's going to be very difficult to social distance in a hallway, especially at our high school, at any school. It wouldn't matter. Cohorts, you would be able to do it a little bit better, but then you're not coming to school every day. We would take every precaution that we could. And in some of these scenarios, it makes it more difficult to social distance. If students decide to ride a bus, it's very difficult to do that. So I think we've kind of laid it out based on each option and which ones have a greater ability to social distance and which ones that's more of a challenge to be. And obviously a virtual setting makes that 100%, and hybrid is a little better in that regard. And in person makes it a little bit more harder, a little more difficult with everyone in place.
All right, thank you. Go to Paul Casera.
Yes. My question was, if we do go to the schooling at home or virtual setting, what options is the school going to provide for families? That I got 2 kids. Is that going to mean I'm going to need 2 computers now for each child to be able to access the virtual academy? And also, me and my wife both work. Childcare becomes an issue. Trying to have them home and doing their schooling all day, and my wife trying to work from home or outside of home, and I have to go to work every day as an essential worker. It's kind of hard to, I hope you guys have a plan for that, and I don't know if I missed the first half, but I'd hear on that.
Okay, Anita, I see you popped on. You want to address that? You're on mute.
Yes, we will have an option for those families that do require a device or internet connectivity. There will be a registration process for that for you to indicate. In terms of how many you would need, it depends on how closely you plan to set schedules up for your children. As Mr. McDonald and Terry have indicated, it really just depends on your students, and if you're planning to do the recorded lessons, there will be times that you have to be live. So again, there'll be a registration. If you do require a Chromebook to be loaned to you, we will have that available for you, and that process will be forthcoming once the board makes a final decision.
Thanks, Anita. Go to Nicholas Hawes.
Hello. So I guess I'm kind of echoing Paul's point as well. I guess I missed a good portion of the first part here. I was unable to join, but so I apologize if this is kind of a repeat of what everybody was talking about. But I guess I'm just really concerned of what considerations are being taken into place, just given the ask of what is being put on parents and the kids and all of that. My wife and I are both full-time working parents. So whoever spoke before was talking about what they did in their district, and if you have time that your son or daughter needs to be online, say from a 9-to-5 setting or something. And what if my son or daughter can't do that because of my work schedule, right? Like it's just going to be a big challenge in terms of that. plus, I mean, homes with multiple siblings. I have a 3-year-old and a newborn on the way. So creating a substantial learning environment for my 7-year-old, honestly, I just don't see how it's going to happen. I understand what other districts have done, that, they went right to the virtual setting. It's all going to be a learning experience. I definitely feel for the teachers. I 100% see both sides, to the argument of this, right? Safety is the #1 priority, but I don't know, why not delay the school year, right? Like, it almost kind of seems like that should be the answer versus just forcing something on these kids that, I don't know. I worry about my son being behind. What we experienced in April. I understand the teachers did the best they could, but it was a horrible experience for us, and I worry that much of the same is ahead of us. I have a brother who's in Arizona who's going through it right now, and they have a setting where the teachers are in some type of setting for one day, and then the next day it's kind of taught as like an independent study. So basically, he's working on, my brother's son is working on his own projects, whatever, with zero interaction, zero instruction with another teacher. And I don't know the full plan of everything. I don't know what you guys have in place, but it's just that I feel like the ask is too much right now of everybody on both sides, between the teachers and the parents and all that stuff. So I guess I'm concerned. I'm reasonably concerned about it. I'm sure it's been said in many different ways, but just wanted to kind of get my voice out there. That's all.
Thank you. Go to Ashley Toussaint.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to address, I can appreciate that the teachers will be teaching, and that is obviously very much appreciated. But at the same time, children that are young, children with ADD, ADHD, and other disabilities need more than a lecture, right? They need more than an explanation. They need that redirection, which I lead plenty of Zoom meetings and education sessions, and it's impossible to give the same attention and get the same knowledge out there in a virtual setting. So I think that that's one thing that needs to be taken account, is that in addition to the teachers teaching, there's still a whole nother component of attending school that doesn't happen with a virtual setting. And that, quite frankly, puts our children, our future, at a huge disadvantage. And I think mental health of these kids who have been locked up, for months and months and months, is being swept under the rug. So, what's being done to address that fact? Like, I don't know. And it would also be nice if you guys could go back over the example of what online would look like. A couple hundred of us haven't seen that because we weren't able to get on. So I think it would be appropriate for a recap on that.
They can watch it online.
What's that?
They'll be able to watch it online later. They'll be able to watch it recorded line.
Yeah, this is all being recorded, and it's all going to be online, and all those items that they had are going to be on there for the parents to see exactly what that online will look like. But if we get through,
at least on the Zoom meeting that I'm on, when people are responding, it's nearly impossible to hear any other report or any other responses. So if there's any way that you guys could speak up or put the computers closer together, that would be appreciated as well.
well, yes, I know. I think you can hear when we talk from in here, but coming from that other, yes, I'm getting that there's an issue. I know that Paul had put a message on the other group that he couldn't hear the response to Casera. Just want to let you know that Anita Bannock had addressed your issue and said that there would be, for the computers, if we did go to the 100% virtual, there would be a registration period for those that would need equipment at their houses with multiple children. They would go over that type of stuff. There would definitely be the ability to get the necessary equipment for you if we do go that route. Is there any hands up here? There's 2 more up here, and then we can.
Lacey's
iPhone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, sorry. I was trying to get it unmuted.
Thank you.
I'm an essential employee. I am work in the emergency department, and my son is going into 11th grade. I'm really concerned about just the fact that, if we go completely virtual, these kids are going to be even further behind than they already are from what they were in the springtime. And putting these, I've been talking to our emergency room physicians at work, and all of them, or the majority of them, are for kids going back to school. And the risk of contracting is not as high for children, obviously. We're seeing that our cases are very, very low. Our hospitals are not flooded. It reduces the risk. And I understand that teachers are concerned for their risk, but you have just as high of a risk going to Kroger. And it's just, I'm sure not everybody is quarantined completely at home. So to not send our kids back to school for that risk is, you have a higher risk of all the other issues not sending our kids back to school. And the risk, keeping these kids socially isolated is really a big concern as well. We're seeing so much more psychiatric issues because of all of this. To continue this, I think we're going to do more harm than good for our kids to continue doing this all virtually. So those are some of the things that, yeah. And, we're at home here because unable to get more people on. I have a neighbor here. Could she speak up as well?
Yes. Then.
So.
Yes.
Hi, this is Amanda Stewart. I come as a concerned parent with a child with special needs. My son is on the spectrum. He has suffered from anxiety as well as a tic. He has an IEP. He's had resources since first grade within the Anchor Bay school system. When we brought Nolan to Anchor Bay, he was barely unfunctionable because of being at home. He was barely unfunctional when we brought him into Anchor Bay in the first grade. And with resources and everything else, he's almost completely functionable. Over the summer and due to COVID, we've seen him decline. His tic has gotten worse. The lack of structure and organizational skills, not knowing what's going to happen, what is going to happen, how the 3 months went, the anxiety of not knowing how to navigate. I mean, we navigated the Schoology for him. I had to print out lesson plans for him. I also had an 8-year-old that I was trying to teach. So the noise, the distraction for him, home is his safety, and his safety. School is school for him. I would hate to see him go back any further because we are going to continue with virtual learning. I also worked in healthcare. I am back and working in a doctor's office now. Cases are nil to none compared to what we had in spring. I am very concerned with kids who are getting IEPs, resources, what we're doing to them mentally, emotionally, and what we're going to see just doing this again another semester. They need those resources. They need those teachers. They know your special education teachers, they know how to teach them in a different way that us parents have never been educated in how to teach them. We don't know how to go on with him in doing a complete virtual learning curriculum. We have no idea what to do with him. I don't think his anxiety will get him through another semester. And I'm very, very concerned about going to complete virtual learning in this coming semester. I really am. So I wanted to speak on behalf of most parents. I do have an elementary student. I get that he would be okay, maybe, but there are things that they're learning for independency within the elementary age. There is organizational and structure within the middle school. And then there's continuing education that they learn in high school to go on for their success after high school and into their college careers. So I think we need to take this into big consideration, all those kids that do get IEPs and resources, and what we need, what we're going to do with them or how are we going to navigate that situation? And I know a lot of parents have spoken up, but seeing what my child has gone from, and I know many parents over at our teachers within the Ashley system and Middle School North, seeing from where he started in the first grade compared to where he was at by March of 6th grade. Even 6th grade, the transition from elementary to middle school and the decline, but then watching him come back from that because he had the structure and the tools from the teachers, and we got him through that. Again, I am very nervous about going completely virtual in this situation, and I think this hygiene has been thrown out the window, and I think that's all it is right now is knowing where our hygiene.
You're at almost 4 minutes.
I just think that that's going to be our biggest key here before we go on. So I appreciate letting me speak.
Thank you. Samantha Zarowski.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I am in favor of returning to in-school. I have a couple concerns. The first one was, if virtual only is what we're given, how can we be sure that our students' IEPs are adjusted in order to accommodate needs of virtual learning by the first week of school so they don't suffer from further learning losses? My oldest son has an IEP and struggled with not having hands-on resources like classroom books. And he was extremely confused by the different requests from teachers on work submission. They worked all on the same platform, but nobody wanted things the same way. There was times that he was given work to do, and the information that he received, PDF files, videos, didn't even have the answers that he was looking for assignments. I know because I did it myself. It wasn't there. I couldn't help him. He resorted to just Googling things, which I'm not sure is a great way to learn. And there was times where I reached out to teachers, one in particular, and I didn't even get responses back. How can we ensure that teachers are responding to parents in a timely fashion?
You want to?
Yeah, you would be able to, I think any time that you have staff not responding, contacting the building principal would be the next step. Email, phone call, building principal.
Okay. Next, we're back up to here.
Misty Miller.
Misty Miller.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. First off, thank you for letting me speak. I'm just going to make it short. I did send an email just at the end of last week, bulletin pointing a couple concerns that I did have. Did want to point out, I do have a daughter who she's going into first grade, and she is in the cognitive class at Sugarbush. It was a struggle. It was a very big struggle trying to teach her. And I just want to know, what is going to be the path for parents who have children who are in these special classes and who need the extra resources? I don't know how to teach her. I'm not a teacher. And I don't want to see her fall more behind or to slip by not going to school. She needs structure, routine, discipline, and I can't give that to her. I worry so much for her each day, and I hope you guys take that into consideration for parents who have children who do need to have that extra help and to help us understand how to help them. And I hope you read my email. There's a lot more points in there. A lot of parents have touched on things. So I don't want to keep going on and on, but please do take that in consideration. I am all for back in school full time for this matter.
Thank you for those concerns.
Jesse Maxwell.
Jesse Maxwell.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Maxwell, and I'm here with my husband, Jesse. And I just want to thank you all for allowing us this opportunity to speak to you tonight. We would like the Anchor Bay Board to approve a return to school plan that offers parents an option of choosing face-to-face learning. It is vital you allow the parents in the anchor-based school district to determine what is best for our families and our children. We feel the emotional and mental effects for not only our child, but our family far exceed any risk COVID poses. The American Academy of Pediatrics has stated schools need to work towards a plan that returns kids to school. The importance, this is directly from their website, the importance of in-person learning is well documented, and there is already evidence of the negative impacts on children because of school closures in the spring of 2020. The AAP states furthermore, lengthy time away from school and associated interruption of supportive services often results in social isolation, making it difficult for schools to identify and address important learning deficits as well as child and adolescent physical or sexual abuse, substance abuse, depression, or suicidal ideation. By voting on to implement a solely virtual return, you may lessen possible exposure to COVID. However, you're increasing the risk to the other areas of a child's overall well-being. My husband and I represent a household where both parents work outside the home. If the district mandates virtual learning, what are we supposed to do? And like other parents, what single family homes, what are they supposed to do? We don't have the time to make sure our child is tied to his chair learning all day. Are these things that you have fully considered? In addition, there are costs now associated to this because we are now having to find somebody that will sit with our child. And in recent events, I don't know if you've seen, because of the local districts, gyms and other types of businesses are now opening up virtual learning labs that you can drop your child off with their laptop and sit there all day. So this is all type of things going on now that I think really should be considered that also increase this risk. I would like to add in conclusion, as was stated earlier by someone, there are other schools in the area that are still offering a 5-day-a-week in person. Are you really willing to risk losing students? We love this district, but it's been a huge risk to our family well-being because you're not willing to give the parents the option. That's all we're asking. Virtual can go virtual if they choose, but please let us have an option. I understand this is a difficult time with difficult decisions to be made, and there isn't going to be a course of action which is perfect, but at least by providing options to us, the board shows they value the families in the anchor-based school district. Thank you again for the time.
Thank you. All right.
We have someone's phone number here.
We have a phone number of,
The last 4 digits are 0074.
0074 is the last 4 digits. (586).
Hello?
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 Yep, we can hear you. If you could just state your name and then.
Sure, my name is Melissa Mitchell. I have a first grader or daughter that's going to be going into first grade in the district. And thank you, first off, thank you guys for everything that you did at the end of the year last year, but also thank you for that option of the summer camp. My daughter did attend that and it did wonders for her this summer. But I wanted to talk more for the hybrid option. I wasn't able to get on earlier, so I don't know exactly what the full hybrid option is, but I have heard of some districts that have done this. They're giving that virtual, the hybrid, and the in-person. I would like to see if that's possible for all of those options, because for my family personally, I understand my daughter does need to be face-to-face with a teacher. That's the best way for them to learn. But I also have family members that live in my household that are in that higher risk category. So for us, maybe and so for some other families, that maybe that might be a better option for some of them, that we can send our kids to school a couple of days a week to get that face-to-face with the teachers. That is vital. But some of us might actually be able to do that, the virtual option as well, a couple of days a week. So I just wanted to really make sure to see if that possibly, can we get that in there as well, to have all three options to really give the families in our district the chance to really pick what works best for their family. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I think that is all the open forum we had. All the hands were up. So I want to thank everybody for your comments and concerns. And
I've had a couple message me that were not able, that they're either on an alternate Zoom or like tried to switch between the different ones to try and get into.
I'm on the other Zoom. I'm on both of them right now. I don't see any hands.
I know of two that didn't get to. There was Cheryl Stankus and Sarah Van Pamel.
Okay. Is Cheryl on either one of these right now? I got both of them on. Oh yeah, we have another open forum, but I'll see if she's here. Do you see a Cheryl? What was the other name, Lisa?
Sarah Van Pamel is the person, but I think she said she's on under Liliana.
Liliana.
I'm not sure which one she's in.
Liliana.
You got it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got Liliana.
Hi, I am the parent of a soon-to-be second grader in Anchor Bay. I am beyond frustrated with how things have recently played out. On July 3rd, I received an email from our superintendent stating, and I quote, "We are eager to open the 2020-2021 school year with both in-person instruction as well as an option for remote learning." On July 17th, my email from the superintendent also stated, and I quote, "Finally, as we prepare for our first day of school on Tuesday, September 8th, rest assured that we are working closely with county and state health officials to implement all safety recommendations." Neither one of those emails stated that in-person might be an option, and I have went back and reread them many times since the last board meeting. I'm trying to understand the disconnect, and I honestly can't make sense of it. As board members, you guys were elected based on your expertise and experience in the school system. You were elected to make decisions with regard to our district and not follow suit of what other districts are doing. If we are just following the lead of other districts, what is the point of even having our own board? As parents, we took surveys to let you know where we stood on sending our kids back. Our administration told me when I called that there were over 27 parents who responded, and approximately 80% had stated that they would prefer an in-person environment. I believe you as our school board should be voting on how we responded in our survey. The survey results speak volumes on what we want. You as a school board, you're elected by the community to represent us as the public. And when the public speaks and says that they want the option to have their kids in person, I mean, it's your responsibility to listen and use your votes to represent us. When it comes to sending kids back into school, I mean, have any of you spoke to any experts? Have any of you spoke to a pediatrician, a child psychologist regarding the matter? Because I have. My daughter's pediatrician believes that it is best for her to be back in school. And I've also talked to a child psychologist who emphasized the importance of physically sending kids back to school. Me personally, I will be paying close attention to how each of you vote, because this is an election year and some of your seats are up for election. So my votes in November will directly reflect which of you best represented my child's best interests. And I will watch that in future elections as well. I am well aware that we might get shut down again by the governor. However, at an elementary school level, I don't think you understand the importance of establishing a relationship with a teacher before that happens. even if we only go 2 weeks before the governor shuts us down, those 2 weeks will give my child a chance to get to know her teacher and build a relationship before she actually goes virtual. I mean, for these young kids, I can't stress how important that is. The American Association of Pediatrics believes that children should be back in school. They actually recommend kids go back in school. A quote in one of the recent articles says, "We recognize children learn best when physically present in a classroom. You as the board, you have the ability to give our children what they need best to learn, an option for in-person, and I desperately urge you to use your vote to give us parents who feel we need in-person for our children the chance for them to have it." To be told in multiple emails over the summer that we would have the option for in-person and then have it pulled out from us, it's frustrating. And I know many parents who, unenrolled out of other programs because of those emails. I mean, we have neighboring school districts that are offering in person. I love Anchor Bay. I love my school. I love the teachers. I don't want to have to do school of choice, but I also have to look out for the best interests of my daughter, and for her, in person is what is best for her, no matter what that looks like. I don't know if you guys have also taken into consideration the parents that will, if you force us into virtual, will be leaving Anchor Bay and choosing an actual online academy. I just really feel that this should be my choice. We have great teachers and staff at my daughter's school, and she's going to be happy to go back no matter what that looks like. When you take away the choice from the parents, I don't believe you're looking out for the best interests of the students.
I just wanted to get you to finish. We're at over 3 minutes. Did you get it all out? Everything you want to say?
I'm just about done.
Okay.
You can't force my child into virtual and tell me that you're voting on what is best for these kids, because we as the parents, we know what is best for our own children. Please, I am begging you, do not take that choice away from us. This isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. You should allow us to determine what is best for our own situations. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your concerns.
I have two more. I have Dawn Durkat.
There's a Dawn. I can see the messages now. Okay. Dawn DeCatz. He's unmuting her now.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you. I sent an email in, but I also wanted to read it just to make sure that my voice was heard. I'm speaking in response to your return to school plans. I also, as your previous speaker, received an email from Mr. Woodside that indicated you were reconsidering your plans to offer face-to-face learning in response to other parent requests that wanted you to only offer virtual. I'm confused as to why this would need to be considered. For those that wish to have virtual learning, their choice was granted. How is it fair for the rest of us choosing face-to-face learning to have them request our choice be taken away? And why would it be considered by you, who should be listening to all of us? The voices you need to hear are not just the loudest ones, but the whispers of the quiet ones that you need to advocate for. Those that have chosen remote learning made that choice because they felt they could. Perhaps there is a parent at home, or their children are independent learners. My children, on the other hand, like many other children, need school. The school district I am employed by as a teacher just decided to go back to school face-to-face. If you do not offer in-school learning, my 4 children will be forced to teach themselves without my help, or I will have to seek schooling elsewhere outside of Anchor Bay. 2 of my children are in high school and have IEPs. How will they receive the help and guidance if I am at work all day and they are home alone? How will I fit in a day's worth of learning for 4 children with unique needs after I return home following a long day of work? Have you really considered the needs of these children with cognitive impairments, autism, speech delays, ADHD, and emotional impairments? How about those children that live in homes that are unsafe or have limited food and resources? Who is advocating for those children? And what is your idea of a return to school date? Are you waiting for there to be 0 cases? If you wait for things to settle down this fall, you will only get into the scenario of cold weather and flu season to stall things even further. Doesn't it make sense to go back now when the weather is warm and other illnesses are at bay? We shut down to flatten the curve. The curve is flat. Macomb County Commissioner Hackle dissolved the state of emergency in our county. The positive cases are declining. The deaths are near 0. Our children have a greater chance of dying from a lightning strike than they do from COVID-19. It is time to start living again. Please do not take away my children's ability to learn. I've had a taste of virtual learning last spring. I know it is not a right fit for my family and many other families. It has negatively impacted their learning and their overall emotional well-being. We are social creatures. We learn by doing. We learn through others. Being isolated at home is not a good fit for children that need the modeling of others and the support of their trained teachers. Please value those with different needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Go to, is Cheryl, did you get Cheryl yet? No, she's at every meeting, so she's got to be on one of these.
Brian and Renee Baker.
What's that?
Brian and Renee Baker.
Brian and Renee Baker.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian Baker. I've been a district parent since 2012. I appreciate all your efforts for what you do to look after the best interests of our kids. Like many parents, our experience last year for remote learning, it was hit or miss. There was a lot of inconsistency in it. My high school student who has some learning issues, she did get the support, and her teachers went over and above. Where elementary school, one assignment due for the week, one Zoom meeting for maybe an hour, in which there was virtually no instruction going on. It was more like a virtual play date. To me, for a fifth grader, that was not acceptable. As far as the remote learning, I do have concerns based on that. If we are leaning towards in online learning, you guys said it yourself, the live video feed is the best option educationally. But if it is the best option educationally, why is the teachers union having any issues with it? Another thing I have concern about for solely online, I do feel that there could be a possible academic integrity issue. I mean, how easy would it be for these kids to cheat? Some kids have homes full of distractions. That's a given. And if we do get into a scenario where there is in-person learning, if there is a positive case of COVID in my kid's class and you order them quarantined, if I take my kid to get a test before the 14 days and I have documentations of a negative test, does my kid get to return to school before the 14 days? And before I close, I would like to echo the sentiments of a bunch of other parents. I've been monitoring this situation in the various pages and whatnot in our school district. And the impression that I do get is, yes, the ones who are screaming the loudest about wanting virtual school only, it does seem like that theirs are the voices that are being heard. And again, just please consider that virtual online learning is not a good fit for every kid. Every kid's needs are different. And, you know, as a parent, we need to be able to have that choice available to us. Thank you all so much for listening to me rant.
Thank you. Thank you for your input. Do we have? I
don't see any more.
I don't see anyone.
Cheryl was able to send to me. She's been on and off. She said she keeps getting kicked out with spotty service.
I was gonna say there's more than enough room in the one. There's only 140.
Yeah, she said she's in the UP.
Oh.
She sent me what she wrote. If it's okay for me to read it for her, I will. Otherwise, just let me know.
Well, I definitely want to hear our parents' concerns, so please read what she wrote you.
All right, this is from Cheryl Stankus. As a parent with 3 students in the district who did not do well with remote learning last spring, I am asking the board to please consider offering both in-person and virtual learning this fall. I understand that the governor's phase 4 is a logical nightmare for schools. I understand that the teachers, although they want to come back to school, are worried about the safety of their students as well as their own. I get it. There is no easy answer to this decision, and it could all change tomorrow with another executive order from the governor. We need to do what's in the best interest of the students, and offering both face-to-face and virtual will provide the best opportunity for each student. The district has always boasted on our test scores being top in the county. Let's be a leader and offer an option for our students and their families. We don't have to follow everyone else. Thank you.
All right. Thanks to everybody for their input. Really hearing all the concerns, and I get it. I just want to stress that I don't think anybody was coming into tonight. I know we're going to have probably a lengthy discussion amongst the board, but we're not following anybody's suit. We're not making decisions based off a few people. It was, hearing from, we heard from a lot tonight who want face-to-face. We've heard from a lot who want online. The teachers, we got to worry about those concerns. I think the issue was we started to have committee meetings, and we started to try to put the face-to-face learning within the guidelines that are put out to us, the social distancing and all the different rules, and we were wondering how are we going to do this? And that's where going back to the administration and asking them, give us some more options of what we can possibly do to, what are our other options out there? So with that, I think since we're on this, we might also go just continue right in the agenda with underneath that general business with the roadmap to return to school. So any board members any questions on the presentation that was given by the administrators?
I had one question. Was preschool addressed? Are the preschool programs included in the roadmap of whatever the board chooses, or is that a separate, is that a separate entity on its own?
No, preschool is included in the roadmap. It does say pre-K and all the sections that it refers to. And yes, we are considering preschool with all of the roadmap and all of the back to school considerations.
So whatever the board goes with will apply to the preschool programs as well, just to clarify. Correct. For everyone. Okay.
All right. Mr. Middlestate? Oh, and anyone else on the board have any comments underneath this return to school roadmap?
John, real quick too, before I was reminded, before we move forward, we just note for the record that Mr. Middlestat and I believe Ms. DeWitt have added to the meeting.
Yes. All right. So now as far as what we'd have to vote on prior to the 15th, correct? Our next meeting is the 19th, so. Can you turn your mic on? Just tap it.
There you go. Yeah, the return to the roadmap the governor put out, the return to school roadmap, the board needs to approve, doesn't obligate the board to any of the options.
Mr. Chairman, I move to go with option 2, giving parents choice between virtual and face-to-face.
Is there a second to that motion?
I will second that.
Motion made by Mr. Middlestat to go with option 2, the choice, and seconded by Ms. Berkmeyer. Any discussion?
Mr. President, could you have Anita pop that slide back up, please, so I can review it again prior to this vote?
Ms. Manning, can you put option 2 back up there?
1 second.
Yeah, I know. I didn't see you.
Yeah, no, I have to open it, so.
Okay. Are you able to open that in both Zoom meetings?
No. No, we are
Can
not.
she send it to you and you open it? And another one?
I can try to point it at the screen, I guess. I mean,
If
it's
you can
good.
point it at the screen. So there's quite a few in that other Zoom meeting. You got it? And you get the new, oh, here. I will.
So do you want to see it in that format, or do you want to see the more detailed slide?
The more detail.
The virtual academy and K-12 in person, which is
Option 2, yep.
option 2.
I guess that's pretty much what we went through with last.
It's really last week.
Correct. It's just, you want to get either Mr. McDonald or Mr. Wedge, just kind of go over it real quick for the board members. Then so we can just, you can just kind of quickly go through it. And that way the parents on the second Zoom that might not have got it on the first go around will be able to get it a second time. Or
Yeah.
get it the first time.
I'll do that. This was my option.
Thank you.
You know, the one I explained, I should say. Terry and I worked on all of them together. But option 2 is where you have the choice with the virtual academy for those that want virtual. And option 2, this option has the remaining students coming to school every day. So that is whoever wants to be virtual is virtual, and the remaining students come into school. And we would like you know, a commitment that, but like I said, that is just so we can work through schedules. And the idea is that we're always going to work with the best interest of a student, whether they want to go back or to go into a virtual because of a health safety concern, or into in-person for a learning concern. Some of the challenges and considerations, if we go to the next slide, with that one is, you know, that gives the student teacher contact, which is you know, beneficial for learning. It's also, though, increases that contact for the health and safety issues, you know, in a negative fashion, I would say, but improves the student-teacher contact for educational purposes. Of course, with the positive and COVID cases, like any situation where we're in person, we'll follow the protocols. We'll contact the Macomb County Health Department and discuss with the, you know, who should be quarantined and for how long, based on their recommendations of whatever exposure may have been. But it gives a choice of virtual academy and all the benefits of that, and then it has the remaining students coming to school face to face.
Joe, could I get some clarification, please?
Of course.
So if I want to understand this clearly, if we go by what a lot of the parents had indicated, and the district can correct me, 80 to 85% of our district said they wanted a face-to-face option. So with that reality and looking at our numbers, you are saying that we're going to create an online academy for roughly 15% of our students or less, and that the face-to-face will be close to 4,800 to 5,200 students that we will be sending to school on buses into classrooms with, we've already discussed that there's not an option with that number of students to social distance 6 feet between students in classes. So what are your plans for, not if, but when a teacher or a student tests positive, how are you replacing a teacher for up to 2 weeks? And how does this affect the teachers' mental health concerns? Have we taken that into consideration?
Yeah, Joe, I can answer.
Okay.
Because we had gone over it, Janine, and your concerns are correct. And we just wanted to show all the 4 options, plus and minuses of each. And as we had shared, if we are face-to-face with all the students in the classroom, passing in the hallways, in the cafeteria for the secondary, we will not be social distancing. We will take all the measures necessary, sanitize the high-touch areas, asking students to move in one direction in the hallway, spacing the desks apart the best we possibly can. And then the same as the elementary, we're going to, plan was the students to keep the students in their classroom in the elementary and have them not be passing. But in the classroom, the social distance, what Joe had shared and Terry had shared, is not something we're able to do.
But if I'm correct, and if I understand these plans that you put together, option 4 still gives the parents that 10 to 15% or 20 that want the online academy, that still gives them the option, but all the rest of those 4,800 students are divided in half. So you only have to accommodate 2,400 students. So you are reducing the saturation and the amount of time that they're sitting in an environment possibly exposed by half, therefore being able to increase your social distancing in a classroom. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah. If you looked at option 4, face-to-face would be every other day. There'd be a rotation, 3 days, 1 week to the other. That may be adjusted and changed, but that was one of the options for option 4. And yes, you still have virtual. Now with option 4, it gives you a better opportunity, for the social distancing. If you have so many kids taking online, whether it be 20% or less. And I think the reference to the 80%, I think it'd be important to understand what that question was. It didn't give a lot of detail. It just said, did you want to return back?
Right.
Pretty much face-to-face.
So basically that could have been face-to-face in a number of different formats. I think we can all safely say we want some kind of interaction for our students, but I don't think that question dictated specifically the type of face-to-face interaction, daily, every other day, so forth. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, we have Anita's on the line. I know we had shared it, but Anita, what was the question where we're referencing the 80%?
So, Janine, when we asked those questions, I believe what you're saying is when a parent answered how comfortable would they be sending their child back to school, it was very comfortable, somewhat comfortable, not comfortable, but know what's best for my kid or my child, and not comfortable at all and not planning to send my child to school. So those were the 4 categories. When you put the comfortable, somewhat, and not but willing to send, that's where you get the 85%. Yes, you are correct. Now, and you could always survey again. Now you're going to say very specifically how the masks are worn, expected. We're doing social distancing as feasible, as much as possible. Could those numbers shift a little? Could the percentage of those now choosing at home change? Yes, it could.
Thank you for the clarification.
Mr. President, the one thing I would like to hear is, I'd like to hear from our superintendent on options 1 through 4. And if the decision was exclusively his, what option he would pick and why.
If you want me to go over all the options?
I think he's basically asking if it was your decision to make. It's kind of a hard, yeah. What's your exact question, Mr. Green?
If Superintendent Woodside was left to make this decision exclusively on his own, what option would he choose and why?
I think this is going to change by the moment, as far as that goes. But I understand your question. And at the same time, what option would you pick?
I'm struggling to hear him if he's speaking there, Mr. President.
If you go, what I was saying, Patrick, if you go with the in-person and virtual, when we send that information out, we'll find out how many we will get that would be virtual, and the idea could be social distance. What I explained was if you're in person, you will not be able to social distance the kids that are coming in. I just wanted to make sure, as we said earlier, the board understood that.
So again, sir, if you were choosing options 1 through 4, with that being said, what option would you choose?
Mr. Chairman, I think that's unfair. We've gone through this process is that it's an opinion based on a bunch of data, and it's the board's decision on which way we want.
I think you're going to know more as you go. I think you're going to know more as you go forward. And the idea of option 2 is going to give you, it's going to give you the opportunity to see how many kids would go virtual. I mean, this is going to evolve and change each day. You have your House and Senate talking about things that will impact this, over the weekend. So this could change on Monday or Tuesday.
I think.
I know that we talked about this in policy, and I think we talked about it in, finance, the positive and negatives of each, and that's what we went. So option 2 would give you the opportunity to see as we move forward the next few weeks. Now, I don't know if the governor would step in and do anything to make any changes, but what option would you pick?
I'm sorry, you're asking me what option I would pick?
Yes.
Well, that'll happen when I vote, sir. With all due respect, I'm asking you a direct question. If you exclusively could choose. I beg your pardon?
I think at this point, I think this is what this board does, turns into games. I think what we're doing is, he's giving us, Mr. Green, I let you speak. I'm just gonna say that this is a hard decision. I get what you're doing. I get it. We've talked to Mr. Woodside. I was in 2 committees with you with Mr. Woodside. This question never came up. But we're tasked with, the perfect world is to go back to school. We all know that. And we all want that in a perfect world. But we're tasked with trying to do it within the guidelines that the governor put out, and they put out, and he's told us, the superintendent has told us, as well as our everybody, our administrators, is we're not going to be able to do it. We're not going to be able to fall within those guidelines. The rooms are 25 by 25. If you social distance, you got 13 kids in a classroom. The buses, you deal with buses for a living. You're not going to be able to do those things. I get what we heard tonight from the parents. I hear from parents on the other side. We don't have an easy decision. Neither does any school board out there right now. Plus our teachers. Our teachers should, we got to be concerned with them. We have 300 teachers. We have 500 employee, staff. It's not an easy decision. So I would rather us sit here and spend our time talking about what all of us as a group of 7, and we use our superintendent and our administration to say, this is what we want you to do. Now, try to run it the best way you can. And they're going to give us their advice. I think what he was saying as far as the put it out for virtual and face-to-face is what you're saying is, now, Joe.
That's gonna answer a lot of questions, because.
When does that go out? When did that go out?
It could go out tomorrow. You know, remember last week, we were gonna sign up virtual, who wanted to go virtual. But after the board meeting, we held off till this meeting. So we know that virtual, no matter what, is gonna be one of the options, and we could put that out. When you go face-to-face, yes, there is a concern for the students that we have to understand. In the classroom, we're not going to social distance, but I also have concerns, you know, for the teachers. You know, by doing that, we're saying to the teachers, we're sending you in the room, and I'm concerned with that.
I guess I kind of agree with Mr. Green in wondering the superintendent's opinion. I mean, the superintendent's role is to advise the board. And while I respecting the board's decision, I mean, we have basically been told over and over, we'll do whatever, we'll make work whatever the board says. But as a person with 20 plus years experience, we're looking for your experience to guide us. So I'm still wondering, are you saying that option 2 is the way you would go?
I think I explained to you what option 2 would do, Lisa. But you know, as a board member, that's a decision for the board to make. What option did you want?
Under your guidance.
I do have a concern with, you know, sending staff into the room. If you did option 4, then you would minimize that. But again, this is going to change, you know, each day. Over the next few days, this is going to continue to evolve. That's why you have many schools that decided to go remote, and you have many schools that decided to go face-to-face. And those are decisions the board has made.
President DeRue, can I just mention here, I feel remiss. I've had parents sending me messages within, you know, the Zoom meeting through chat that I like to express that. I have people asking for us to really look at option 4. And all I want to say in regards to that is I'm passing on to you what I'm reading sent to me. But at the same token, I think what Mr. Woodside is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that if we were to go to option 4, it is still giving your entire community face-to-face to start with, and the virtual academy, which will at least help us come down to a number which would be no different than option 2, which would be face-to-face and obviously the virtual academy. So you still have a number to start with to see then where you stand. And if I understand, option 4 is just the safer version of option 2, as it will give you the ability to actually be within the guidelines of the CDC and the health department when they say 12 to 14 students based on the room size is within guidelines. If we have everybody back without the A-B schedule, we are exposing every staff member, every custodian, every secretary, every teacher, every student, every bus driver to a double the amount. And that, I think, is leaving people uncomfortable. I believe every single one of us want everybody to go back to school. That is not the issue. We all want face-to-face instruction. I have 2 of my own children. I'm a full-time working parent. So is my husband. I have the same issues that everybody else expressed this evening. But at the same token, I'd be remiss if my actions were to land a teacher, a principal, a custodian in the hospital. So I'm just putting it out there because everybody else has had the opportunity to speak for the last 3 hours.
I appreciate that. We'll,
something to add to that. John, can I say
Mr.
something
Moses,
quick?
are you, Mike, sorry, can you turn or get closer to your microphone or something? Because it's hard to hear you.
How about now? Can
There
you
you
hear
go.
me?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows where I stand from the last meeting. I understand the parents' concerns. I do. I sympathize with them. I can't rightfully consciously vote for something that can land a teacher or student in the hospital. The disease is still out there. It's still prevalent. I don't think without the social distancing and the ability to do the certain things, I don't think the option 4 is going to help as many people as everybody thinks, because you're still going to be having the issues with the parents that work. That's not going to help them. I think we've got to go 100% virtual to start the school year. It's due to the safety of the teachers. You're right. The students they're going to pass it. They're not going to get sick. It's your teachers that are going to pay the price. And when they do, I can't have that on my conscience. So before you guys vote, I want you to hear that and reiterate that, yes, I do understand. And whichever way it goes, I'm perfectly fine with it. I'm only one of 7 votes, but I can't vote for something that's going to land an employee possibly in the hospital or worse, or a student, or a student's parent, or a student's grandmother. That's where I stand, and I'm good.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, we should have a vote on this. We've had discussion. Somebody else has another option. If the motion doesn't pass, then we can move forward. But
Well, I want to give all the board members just a chance.
we just did.
Well, Marie has,
Marie.
I haven't heard from Marie, so, because I'm not.
Well, I was waiting. I was having trouble with unmuting. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yep.
First of all, I think that asking the superintendent for his opinion, we've been given all the information that he possibly has, because there isn't any one of these options that's a good option. There are drawbacks to each and every one of them. There are concerns with each and every one of them. And so his job is to present us with all the information possible. There isn't any person that knows 100%, I don't care if you're a superintendent, teacher, or whatever, which one of these is going to be best. And that's why this is such a hard decision, because we know that none of our options are good. We know that we want to keep staff safe. We want to keep kids safe. We also know that virtual is not a good option for our kids. It's the only option we may have, but it isn't a good option. Many kids don't have the discipline. They need that one-on-one. They need the interactions from the teacher. They need direction. They need remediation. Our special ed kids, they need that contact and so on. On the other hand, you've got a pandemic, and virtual technically is going to be the safest option for everybody. So that's a heavy decision that every member of this board has to look at and weigh. And okay. I guess that I would suggest that we put our energy into the next step. Let's say we go with option 2. I think we have to have more clearly defined guidelines as to what is going to happen if how many cases. I know some districts have already said if we get 2 cases, I believe it was one of the Lance Crew schools, they're shutting the whole system down. Is that what we want? To start up and then, okay, we're going to define numbers of cases and then we're going to shut down. There are a lot of districts out there, especially out of state. For example, in Georgia, they opened early and they're already all closed, or many of them are. And that's a risk we're going to take too. I get the plight of the parents. I know kids, a lot of them are not getting the structure and the support that they need at home for a number, 20 different reasons. Many parents don't know how to help their kids. They don't have the discipline and the structure within the home. I mean, the technology is an issue. So, I mean, there is no good answer for any of this. So I think we look at, we make a decision, but then we decide where are we going to go if this becomes even more serious? And what line are we going to draw in the sand that if this happens, then we all close down? So I see all the parents, they're concerned, the kids need to be in schools, and they do. And it's a heavy responsibility to say, oh, we're sending everybody back. And then maybe a teacher does get sick, children get sick or whatever. But these are also some of the same teachers that have outside lives. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're getting it from a student. So I think we have to vote our conscience here, and we have to do the best that we've got. This is the hand we're dealt. Let's take the stand, pick one of these options, and we move forward and spend our energy defining what are we going to do if cases increase and we have an outbreak in the district. I'm done.
I guess my question to what I was saying earlier, maybe it's to Mr. McDonald, is, that or Superintendent Woodside, we put this out, we go, they're going to choose. Now, the 13th was the date. What's the new date? How much information, are we going to have that parent tutorial or whatever you were talking about so that they can see exactly what the online is going to look like? So they can make that's the other thing that they said they didn't, with the parents' concerns of how do I make that decision of going face-to-face or online when I don't really know what it looks like. And I know we did some tonight, but yeah, we had a lot, probably a total of 500, but there's a lot more people in the district and we want to get that out to them. And then, when's that deadline? And then, because we got to get on it right away. And
We were going to do it during this week. So
correct.
we would put it out there
This week.
Remainder this week and into next week.
And you would have the stuff on the website as far as what the online is going to look like, what the kids are going to see, and what support the parents that are home doing the online
Yeah, what
are going to have.
shown. We'll put that.
Okay.
We'll put more examples in the same.
Because I get what we're doing here, and I heard the parents tonight myself, but I just think we're along the lines of what Mike said. I think we're playing with fire with knowing what resources we don't have to do all the stuff that you need to do to keep everybody safe. Yet people aren't worried about it, and they say the cases are down, and it's because all the stuff we're doing. We put all these kids back into school, cases are going to go up. So, does any other board members have anything on this? Mr. Green, Ms. Berkmeyer?
No,
All right.
sir. I believe that Steve called for a vote.
Yep. So we'll go to the vote.
Ready? All right, so voting on authorizing option 2, which is offering a virtual academy as well as a K-12 face-to-face option. Calling the roll, Mr. Middlestat,
Unmute louder.
Yes.
Mr. DeRue,
Yes.
Ms. Akavetti Hendershot, did I lose Ms. Hendershot? Oh, I see her. Hold on. See if I can unmute her.
We might have lost her for a minute. Just go to the next one and I'll get her back.
Ms. DeWitt,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Berkmeyer, yes. Mr. Moses,
No.
Ms. Hendershot, did we get
I
you
don't
back?
know. See her. You see her, Tim?
I see her on my screen, but I'm pressing unmute and I can't get her to unmute.
Yeah, she
Oh, there she is.
Oh,
Yeah, I couldn't get it to unmute. It was like stuck. I'm sorry. What was the question? I was like on silent for like 3 minutes here.
we were voting on option 2 for a virtual academy and a K-12 face-to-face option. What was your vote?
Hesitantly, yes.
Okay, motion passes. Now you need to vote on does that satisfy the return? We do the whole roadmap, right? Which would
Well, the
include.
motion was the option, but I
Correct.
think that the My Safe Schools, the return to school
Yep.
roadmap has to be.
All right,
The
so.
motion would include the vote.
So now we need to, now that the roadmap has option 2 in it, we need to get a motion to approve the My Safe Schools, Michigan's 2020-2021 Return to School Roadmap for Anchor Bay. Is there a motion to approve it with option 2 that we just voted on?
I will make the motion.
Motion by Ms. Birkmeyer. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. DeWitt. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote by roll.
Okay, Mr. Middlestat,
Yes.
Mr. DeRue,
Yes.
Ms. Akavetti Hendershot,
Yes.
Ms. DeWitt,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Birkmeyer, yes. Mr. Moses.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, we'll go into personnel. Ms. Laura Gonzalez.
Good evening, everyone. So I bring to you tonight the our Michelle Middlestat, who we're recommending to replace Mary Delore as our transportation supervisor. Michelle has many years experience in public school transportation. She was a driver herself for 25 years. Her current position, she is the transportation director at another Macomb County district, and she would be leaving there to join Anchor Bay.
All right. Is there any discussion? Or is there a motion to approve the new hire as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Moses. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. DeWitt. Vote by roll.
Mr. Middlestat,
Yes.
Mr. DeRue,
Yes.
Ms. Akavetti Hendershot, she's muted again. I'll come back to her. Ms. DeWitt,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Birkmeyer, yes. Mr. Moses.
Yes.
And can I get Hendershot?
All right, motion passes.
Mr. DeRue, I think I misspoke. Her name is Michelle Metapetigan. I'm not sure if I said that correctly.
Oh, you did? Yes.
Okay, it's Michelle Metapetigan.
Metapetigan.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Michelle Pettigan, if she's in the Zoom meeting. All right. Union Communications. Do we have anybody? Is Jamie up?
I don't see her. She said she's good.
Okay. Go to,
Oh, John, for the record, Ms. Hendershot sent a message that she is voting yes on the hire. She's still having issues.
all right. Then we're to the second round of open forum. You see anybody?
Nope.
I don't seeing nobody. We'll.
Mr. President, I hate to interrupt you there. Ms. Petron sent me a message. I think she's trying to speak but can't unmute.
Okay.
Let me see here. Give her just a second, see if she recovers.
Yeah, he's
there.
unmuting her right now.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks,
Jamie.
Yep, can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you just clarify the vote that was taken by the board in terms of the options? I've been getting a lot of messages and phone calls. Can you please make it clear what the options are going to be for the community?
As far as what option we went with?
Yes, please.
Option 2.
So there will be in person and online.
Correct. The one, yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, seeing no other open forum. Guess we had a closed session to finish up what we talked about last week. So is there a motion to go into closed session?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
I'll second that, Mr. President.
Motion been made and seconded. Vote by roll.
Mr. Middlestat,
No.
Mr. DeRue,
Yes.
Ms. Akavetti Hendershot, she's probably still having some trouble, I
Yep,
guess.
she just sent me a message. She votes yes.
Okay.
All right.
Not that it's gonna matter. I think you'll have your votes.
Right. Mr. Green,
Yes.
Berkmeyer, yes. I'm sorry, Ms. DeWitt,
Mr. Witt?
maybe we have another one stuck.
Yes.
Oh, there we go. And Mr. Moses.
Yes.
All right, we'll go into closed session. It shouldn't be long and we'll be back. Closed session. Anybody? I think Lisa was going to make that motion, right, Lisa?
I'll make the motion.
To reconvene.
Motion by Mr. Middlestat, is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Berkmeyer, I believe.
Yeah, that's fine.
Vote by roll.
Mr. Middlestat,
Yeah.
Mr. DeRue,
Yes.
Ms. Akavetti Hendershot,
Yes.
Ms. DeWitt,
Some of us are having a hard time unmuting.
All right, motion.
I'm back. I'm on now.
All right, Marie's back.
voting to reconvene, Murray.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Berkmeyer, yes. Moses,
Yes.
Motion passes. Superintendent comments.
Yeah, we will be getting the information out there as far as doing the virtual and in person. I think, if you went on our website, you could see a lot of the questions and answers. And we'll add more to it because we got a lot of good questions tonight. So we could add those to it also. And we're going to add, we'll highlight it to parents that if they go on there, they can see a lot of the questions will be answered. And the idea, the positive and negatives of being in person, the positive negatives of being virtual. This way, the parent can make their decisions. We'll put some samples of what virtual looks like, and that will give that will give them all the information they need to make decisions going forward. But we all know this is a fluid situation. It changes by the day, and like I said, I know that the House and Senate are meeting, I think, over the weekend and on Monday. So there's going to be more information coming out as we move forward.
All right, thank you. Board comments? Oh, Lisa.
All right. I do want to thank all the parents who reached out through email the past few days and took time to share their thoughts and concerns. No matter what side of the debate you fell on, because I received information from both. Public schools thrive on family and community engagement and participation. So I can assure you that I read each and every email, many times twice. And due to being out of town intermittently this weekend with limited service and the volume of emails I got, I did not respond to them as I usually do because I did not want to respond to some and not get to others. I did, however, get some emails that were clearly from students, and I did make sure to respond to those personally, the handful of students that reached out. I want to congratulate their parents for raising articulate, respectful children who speak out for themselves to a group of adults that can be probably intimidating. And I am personally proud to have them as engaged anchor-based students. As for tonight's, I know tonight probably has a lot of people all over the board with mixed emotions on both ends. As for me, this choice, I did vote for option 2 to give parents a vote. And my personal belief was that many students are already struggling. This pandemic does reach beyond school, and kids have had activities and things canceled on them, minimal peer or even family interactions, potential family stress, unemployment, loss of jobs, disruptions to family life. And I'm just fearful for where that puts our kids and their needs. We are in the business of kids. So when droves of parents are telling me what's best for their child is the option to be able to go back to school, I think, who am I to question that? We have students who receive support services. Example that comes easily to me is PT and OT. As a physical therapist, I could tell you that virtual therapy would be difficult at best. Add a pediatric population in that mix, it's tough, even tougher. We would be leaving behind a host of students that, despite anyone's best intentions, we cannot provide the same for as we would in person. There could be a furthering education gap for too many kids. I do understand the arguments. I understand that the government has chose, phases and regions, and that is totally out of this board's control. There's a very real possibility that in a week, 3 days, a month, whatever it might be, in a face-to-face school might get shut down again. As a parent, I can tell you that there is a whole population of students, my own included, that need personal interaction of any length of time that's allowed with their teacher to get any sort of buy-in to virtual learning. So whether it's 3 days, 3 weeks, I can guarantee you that those 3 days with their teacher for my kids will mean the world to them. That would mean, more than the vacation we took this summer. Elementary virtual schooling, we know, is not researched to be best for kids. We know that. So I'm happy that we are choosing to offer what we can for those that agree with that for their children. I know all the board members, administrators also probably received many, if not all, the same emails that I got, with parents literally begging to allow their children to go to school. I trust that parents know their children. They know what they're signing up for with a face-to-face experience during a pandemic. And I'm glad we did not eliminate their choice. My children have listened to me have these discussions with people on repeat the last few weeks, probably more than I even want them to hear, because like most people, the anxiety and the concern is unavoidable for all of us. So they realize that going back to school is going to look different. They know that they're going to have masks. They realize that some of their friends might not opt to return right now. I suspect that a lot of parents have had these conversations about the limbo right now with their kids. And despite that, I can say that my kids still want to go. These kids are getting desperate and their parents are begging us to help them. And so for me, that was why I was providing parents with the option to make the choice that's best for their kid. But certainly not least, I want to address the staff, because I do realize that my opinion might not be popular among many of them. I realize that there have been accusations flying in this sort of environment, and I hope and pray that you can see that the majority of our community is rallying you. Parents, including myself, are confident that you can make this work. None of us would knowingly want to put our kids in harm's way, not one of us. And we know, because you've shown us through the past, that you care about our kids. We know that things are going to be different, and we know that you might not be at your usual best, because there might literally be physical limitations on how you can teach right now, or how you can interact with kids that will hinder your ability to do things the way you normally do. We see you. We still believe in you. And just as you know that, and we know that you will also make virtual learning the best that you can too, I understand that if you're not in favor of face-to-face schooling, I hope you can at least see the rallying cry tonight of our community that we have faith in you and we trust you with our children, even in the hardest of the circumstances. That's all I got.
That's it? Okay. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm sorry I'm now sitting in my car, so it looks like I'm telling horror tales around the campfire. I don't quite have the lengthy part that Lisa had, but I can tell you certainly that it was not an easy decision for me to make. It was one of the toughest decisions I've ever made in either my professional, personal, or I guess political career, board member career. I try to take the best options, considering everybody that reached out to me. As Lisa mentioned, 300 probably emails in the last week. I've read all of them. As Lisa mentioned, it's nearly impossible. I've been in the thumb as well with limited cell service, so try to respond to the ones that I could. And I will emphasize Lisa's point that our teachers have done a fabulous job teaching the students, because a lot of the emails were clearly from students, and I truly enjoyed reading some of them. They're well written, represented their point, had all the necessary parts of a paragraph, so I won't reiterate that too much, but the decision was very difficult. I do worry about the safety and well-being of our students, of our staff, and our teachers, and I hope and pray that as we move through this, that that our teachers that aren't comfortable will certainly hopefully be able to teach the virtual piece, and our teachers that are comfortable will be able to come in and do the face-to-face classroom instruction. I know the numbers aren't going to work out perfectly. In a perfect world, they would, but we're not going to have that option here. But again, I voted tonight based on probably close to 500 parental contacts over the past week, either via text, via instant message, Facebook, direct emails, people stopping me in Kroger and in Meijer and out at the boat launch that recognized me and wanted to give their opinion. So I try to do my best to represent the people. I do have a son who will be a senior in high school, so certainly I want him to be safe and him to be able to enjoy the fruits of 11 years of pre-senior year activity, culminating with hopefully a great senior year with all the normalcies that go with it. Although I'm certain that it'll be anything but a normal senior year. And that's all I've got. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ms. DeWitt.
Well, I think that all of us can share Ms. Burkmeyer's and Mr. Green's sentiments. They've spoken very well. I would just like to add that I've always had the greatest admiration for teachers, and know that teachers make a difference in the lives of their students. And really, they are essential workers. And it's a tough position they're in, but just as tough as those essential workers that reported and sat with children, with patients when they had COVID, and some survived, some didn't. And not saying that I'm certainly hoping that we can all stay safe, but I do also know that we need to get kids back in school. And we'll do everything possible to protect them, and we're at least trying. So I just want to thank the teachers for their dedication, and those of us that can help our kids get back on track and feel comfortable with that, that it is greatly appreciated. And I do appreciate all the parents that came forward tonight to help us to make the decision. As Mr. Green said, it was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made because of the circumstances. And unfortunately, there really is no right decision for everybody. So we do what we can. We revise as things come along. And I just do want to thank all the parents who took time to share their views and emails and so on. And I also want to thank central office, because this has been a tremendous undertaking to try to cover all the bases, to try to put together the best program possible, to bring in each one of the units and all of the teachers to have some say in the decisions. And I know that that's taken a lot of time out of their summer, and it's been just an overwhelming task. So I do really appreciate the great job they're doing too. So that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Akavetti, Hendershot.
It's late into the evening. I don't want to belabor anything. We've spent the last 4 hours very carefully examining the situation that is unfathomable. I don't think any of us ever expected to be here. It was a very difficult decision. I was very hesitant. My teachers are in my heart. I myself am a classroom teacher. I will not be able to sleep at night thinking that one of them are in harm's way. So I'm hoping that my prayers go answered, and that all of our students and staff and their families, because, COVID has reached into my life and has stolen the last 6 months and has medically devastated my family personally. I've known a family who lost their mother. And many people have said, that this is not as bad as it was. To lose one person is bad. So I, with a heavy heart, made the decision for the vast majority of my community to make a decision. And that I hope that's the best decision that we could have made. But I know that there was no right decision for everybody. And that I hope and pray that this is, like I said, 85% of our district wanted it. And I hope and pray that turns out to be the best, and we keep everybody as safe as we possibly can. And I will keep our community in my prayers every night.
Thank you. Mr. Moses.
Well, I again find myself on the wrong end of the voting. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just heard, all throughout the night that, safety comes first, safety comes first, safety comes first. And tonight we didn't put safety first. We put convenience first. I get it's tough, and I'm sorry if I make people angry with that statement, but it's something I believe. We put lives at risk for 10 weeks of schooling, which is very important. I understand, but That being said, I'm kind of glad that we are going back to school. I do value the in-person teaching, and we better be on our A game because this has a lot more implications than just school. I mean, we could be taking steps back to where people are getting shut down from their jobs because of decisions we've made today. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Middlestat?
Though there's any much more to add to what everybody else has said, it's a difficult decision. We rally around the decision, do the best we can to implement it, and there's not really no great choice. Other than we'll attempt to let the parents decide what's best and give them an option. But again, it's 3 or 4 weeks away, and we'll see how we get this implementation. And as Leonard said, it's very fluid, and we'll see how things change. And I'm very good at being able to make changes on the fly to accommodate and make sure that kids are safe. But there really wasn't any great option other than parents who do not want to have their kids come to school. They have that option. If they do, they have their options.
Thank you, Steve. I'd like to thank all the, obviously, like the other board members have stated, all the parents and students that reached out to us by email. The almost 500 that were on the board meeting tonight. Obviously, this is a hot topic issue. It's every school district's grappling with it. As I said earlier, I don't know. I mean, I voted obviously tonight to go back and give these two options. I still think, I'm with Mr. Moses in the fact of that. I just don't know how we're going to do it. The 80% of our district, I guess, saying they wanted to give their kids the choice, and we just got to be vigilant over the next 3 to 4 weeks that we're putting all the right things in place, controls in place to make sure that we keep the students safe, the teachers safe, and at the first site they're not safe. We need to be ready to act as a board. I know I will want to if we need to have a good plan when it comes to that first COVID case, if and when it does come, what those protocols are going to be, not just, hey, what we're going to do what Macomb County says. I want to know what Anchor Bay is going to do. I know but I know as like myself, I represent people for a living out in the plumbing industry and on the construction sites. That's the first question we ask the general contractors. How many COVID cases before you shut this job down to protect our men and women? So we got to protect our students. We got to protect our teachers. And I get it. And I commend the administration. I commend everybody that's working day and night to try to, come up to this task and get it done. It's not easy. It's not hard, it's hard. And I thank the teachers for coming to the table. I've heard from a lot of teachers in those emails that understand that the best way to educate a kid is in person. So I think we all know where everybody's at. It's the hardest decision any one of us board members. I know the new ones that we've dealt with since we've been on this board. So we'll go from there, and we'll see how the next, as Leonard said, the next 2 to 3 weeks is going to be really fluid with the governor. She might come in and make a different decision for all of us. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Green. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Moses. Since it's online, vote by roll, Lisa. Ms. Berkmeyer.
Yes.
Yes.
What?
We are voting to adjourn.
Oh, I couldn't hear anything you said. Yes?
Ms. DeWitt?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Berkmeyer, yes. Mr. Moses?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thanks, everybody.